jelly time, peanut butter jelly time.
Peanut butter jelly with a baseball bat. Peanut butter. Hey, what's up, man? All right. Are you ready? Are you
I am
ready?
so
Player
ready.
two.
I am so ready.
Shit, why have we never said that before? Why have we never said that before? Why did we get 18 fucking episodes in before I fucking asked you if you were ready, comma, player two? Jesus
I like
Christ,
it.
what a dummy.
I like it.
Anyway, welcome to Ready Player Two, where we play video games and you watch us and laugh at how bad we are at them. Well, I don't know. That could be the other tagline.
I think that's not bad. That's not bad. I'll allow it.
There we go. I am Craig Mack. You are?
Serious Jest.
There you go. You didn't say anything like Mike Molester or any of that kind of stuff. It's 2019. You feel like it's not appropriate anymore in the Me Too movement.
Oh, definitely appropriate, but
okay.
Definitely appropriate. I do like to push the envelope. I was posting in our Discord chat and some of the other Discord chats I'm a part of, saying, hey, we're live now.
Awesome.
And it sounds as good a time as any that if you watch this and become a fan of us, or if you're a regular listener of our podcast and are tuning in, you can. And you're just like, man, I listen to these guys a lot of times. Like I'm not around live to listen to it, so I don't put it in the chat room or whatever. But I would like my chance to be heard on some of this shit. Like something they said, like jarred a response where I wish I could like fucking talk back or say to them my opinion or something they hadn't considered. Well, we hang out in what's called Discord, which is a service. It's a chat that was originally made for gamers and now it's being used by like a lot of different other venues because it's just a very well-made chat. But in any case, I won't make this a commercial for Discord, but I will post in just a second our Discord, like a link to join our Discord server, and then this way, anytime you feel like reaching out to us any day of the week, any hour or whatever, you just post that shit in there, and if one of us is on or not on or whatever, we'll eventually get back to you when we see it. But there's a whole community of fans on there, and we're on there regularly, and so your message will be heard or whatever, whatever point you want to get across. Yeah,
we're in there all the time. We respond, as do other people hang out, part of the community will respond as well. So it's pretty much it's a constant conversation. So you can respond to shit just specifically about this, but also just come in and add your own ideas, talk about other games you think we should play, stuff like that. So it's
TV shows,
a living,
movies,
breathing
beer.
community. Exactly.
There's a lot of beer porn in there.
There is.
And
we
even have and speaking of porn, not really porn channel, but we have like a celebration of women channel. So if there's anybody that's currently on our brain that we're like, damn, I just can't get her out of my brain, you can post pictures of her in there for everybody else to. This sounds a lot worse now that I'm explaining it.
Yep.
Out loud.
I was surprised that you went there. I thought you'd just stick with the beer porn thing, and I was like, well, there you go.
The rule is though,
half the women listening that turn it off.
It has to be tasteful. It's just but the conversations will go like, this is my current crush, and then you post a picture of Scarlett Johansson, or whoever else may be.
We will actively delete anything that is not tasteful. Like we will remove things, so don't think you're going to sneak something in there. The whole point is for it to just be like, isn't this girl amazing? Like, what's her name? The
Catalin Ohashi.
Ohashi, that got in there, and she was the Olympic or the gymnast, the national gymnast.
Yes, collegiate
gymnast that had gone and gotten a couple of perfects in a row and just took America by storm. So we just posted some adorable pictures of her being like amazing, just doing like her thing, and that's kind of what we're looking for. But anyway, we digressed already. Under 4 minutes, we all have already entered the first of many rabbit holes. That is what this is all about.
Aside from rabbit holes, let's talk about our general formula that powers the rest of the podcast is liquor or alcohol.
Yes, sir.
I will start with me. Actually, I do want to start with you this time, and you'll see why.
Okay.
So you can explain, as to what it is.
Okay. So normally we go in here and we do a whole big beer of the show, and we tear into what we're drinking, and one of the things that you will notice that our beer of the show typically, or liquor of the show or whatever, on this, when we do the Ready Player 2, a lot of times it's a test bed for other stuff for the Live from the Man Cave. We try stuff we've never had before, just take some chances sometimes. just more so than me, because he has come across even some penalty beers that we have hated so much that we have penalized ourselves by forcing us to drink ad nauseum in the future. It's fucking horrible. So in this case, though, for me, and I have already talked about this on the last few episodes if you go back and listen, but I am currently in the middle of a dry month where I just took the month of February off from drinking.
No
and
lube.
let's not be crazy. I waited until after. Yeah, you really like that one. Because there's always a new listener. You never know. It might be their first time hearing the joke, even though it's my seventh time. But that's okay. But so I'm not a fucking lunatic. I did wait until after the Super Bowl, so I did have something to drink at the Super Bowl, and then I took off. I started that Monday, and since then, so it is mostly just kind of a cleanse from the holidays. And or the holiday season where you just feel like you're just constantly at like a holiday party, drinking, eating, whatever. So it's just kind of a collective move to take the month off. So I have been making a bit of a move over the last few into some soda streams. That has been what I've been going after to try to recover some of the feeling of drinking alongside you, buddy, without actually having done it, right? So this time. This is one, there's been the theme of the name, right? The name has a very specific theme. This one is going to make the most sense and going to be the most disgusting, because this one actually is SodaStream's Dr. Pete's ass water. So it's actually now a man's ass water, yeah. So for whatever reason, I don't really know why SodaStream's budget ass Dr. Pepper is called Dr. Pete. And so if you stick with my, originally I was just like, it's just some mango ass water, and then eventually we started putting the.
Okay, I thought you meant they actually did.
We started putting the hyphen. No, we started putting the hyphen in the wrong spot. So instead of it being mango, it's some mango ass water. It just became mango ass dash water. And so now we've gone full circle and closed this joke completely.
I did not have the heart to actually put the hyphen there.
You did not. I always do it that way. You did. So this one is
you can imagine
Dr. Pete's ass water. So I am drinking some Dr. Pete's ass water right now. That's what I'm gonna be drinking tonight, and that's it. I got nothing else. I just let that joke lie exactly where you imagine I'm drinking. It looks exactly like it sounds. It is Dr. Pete's ass water, 0% ABV. Love it. Awesome. I'll kick it over to you so you can be the real man on the podcast and explain what you're drinking.
I went to the liquor store, and I was just like, I don't know. I kind of number one, I've been kind of beered out. Yeah. Like in that, I've been drinking a lot of beer while you've been drinking soda water, and I went, beer.
Oh,
I have been like kind of beard,
nice.
BEERED, beard out.
Oh,
so,
gotcha.
Yeah, so like just because I'm not really liking how sluggish the next morning, like sitting in your stomach, and it's like, it's not the alcohol, it's the, I don't know, just the constant drinking the heavy bread-like substance. So I decided to switch it up. I'm like, why does Craig get to have all the fun with like the mixes and the little berries and the fucking fruits and all that shit? So I went in and I decided to go liquor the show today, and I got me some, a good steady. This is now mainstream. It used to be like a craft liquor, right. Or they actually market it as America's original craft vodka, but Tito's nice. Handmade vodka.
There you go.
This is a solid vodka. I'm sure many of you have tried this, but if you haven't, this is one of my favorites for the price point. It's really good. And I am mixing Tito's with the Simply Limeade,
nice.
Which you could find in any grocery store. I find it to be extremely sweet, so now I kind of have to like offset it. So I put in a bunch of ice, and then I added this other trick. Not really a trick, but like something I like to do, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it. Instead of ice, a lot of times, use frozen fruit, and nice. It will up the game of whatever mixed drink or cocktail you're making or whatever. So I used Bird Eye's Ultimate Berry Medley, so it's got like raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, and strawberries in there.
Just floating
in there? That's awesome. My ice for the most part. But I added ice because the limeade is so sweet that I wanted to kind of water it down.
Yeah.
So I put ice in it too. And then as I was walking back here to, start the show, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Why not? I grabbed a banana and I dropped some pieces of banana in there too.
Wow. So, you are just like on vacation now, apparently. Did you put a little umbrella in that drink as well? Jesus, dude. What the hell are you making? What the fuck? Man, I'm drinking ass water, but really, I might be drinking Dr. Pete's ass water. But you just fully committed to just drinking a little vacation Hawaiian drink, and I'm down with that. I appreciate that.
That's fucking dope.
Thank you for supporting me.
I was, while we were talking, because we went a little long before we got to liquor, I just have to admit that I was like, fuck this, I can't. I was looking at it and I was like, no, I want to drink this. I want to drink this right now, and it's really fucking good. And the banana was that touch that was like, I wonder if this will throw the flavor off. Like, no, it definitely added to it. So I've been like throwing little pieces of banana in. The more like I drink and I refill it, I throw another piece of banana in, awesome. Some more frozen fruit. So
are you just like basketball shotting it into the, like, just like, I just imagine you just like tossing it up and hook shotting it in. Yeah, jump shots. Yeah, there you go. Nice. That's the way everyone should drink. Make you work for it. Burn off some of the calories at least, right? Awesome. All right.
I don't know what the ABV is on this bitch, but it's
probably not 0%.
So
way better than
it's
me.
40%. 40%.
Perfect. It's slightly higher than my ass water. All right. So on that note, now that we know who the real man is and who the other guy who's playing the game is, the way this typically goes, as we've mentioned before,
I thought you were saying the real man is Dr. Pete.
Yeah. It's true. Good point. The shout outs to Dr. Pete. So the way
after all, you're drinking his ass water, so it's not gay for him.
No, dude, he's just making it work for him. He's just like, I got to get rid of it somehow. You do what you want, Craig Mack. So the way this works is I play the game. Jess has already played this game through. So he is essentially just kind of watching. We talk about it as we go through it, and then talk about it after the fact as well. So he's kind of more heckling from the back seat, right? Just kind of seeing what happens. And then we actually do talk at the end about what decisions that I may have made that were different, things that were the same, stuff like that. So one quick thing just to throw out there, this is kind of a throwback to the last episode before we get back into the game. One of the things that had happened, so you guys, if you've been listening so far, there's magazines spread throughout the world in this game. And you can pick them up, and they're more just like flavor text. Usually, it's kind of building the world, right? It's kind of explaining what's happening beyond the beyond the scope of what's in the room that you're in, like kind of what the state of the world as it currently stands in, what is this, 2038, something like that, right? 2038.
Right. Yeah.
So it's
I believe.
Right, it's pretty cool. It's a cool way for them to kind of explain stuff that's happening for you to get a better taste of understanding of what the world's about. Now, there's typically 2 in each mission, or at least in the missions that have them. I don't know, maybe I probably missed a few, but there's typically 2 in each. And normally what we'll do is when we get to the end, I'll unlock them, and then Jess will go on his end, open up his, and read through them. And there was one that I got last time that he did not, so we just decided this time, we talked about it, we would just start off reading through that one, and we can. What do you think, Jess? I mean, this is actually just doing some some planning on the fly. Do you want to talk about it right now before we even start playing?
Yeah.
Or do you want to? Okay.
Yeah.
So we're just going to read through it, talk about it, and then we'll get right into the gameplay from there. So this one is Detroit Today. It is how androids alter your brain. Talking to machines is changing the way we communicate. And then it says CyberLife, world's first $1 trillion company, and global population.
Those are other articles
that would be right. That would be in there.
And like in all fairness, like the game makers just put those headlines in. There's not actually articles for that.
And some of those are actually important also because, again, the world building stuff to show you, like that CyberLife, which is the company that builds these androids, world's first $1 trillion company. And then,
they're Amazon.
Right, just
they're basically Amazon.
Apple, Amazon, right, that kind of thing. And then you have your global population reaching 10 billion. So again, kind of showing you the state of the world as it currently sits right now. Let's see what this one is about. So we're going to read about the talking to machines is changing the way we communicate.
Yeah, CyberLife would be, I agree, would be Apple really would be the best direct translation of the type of company. But the success of Amazon in our world has really eclipsed Apple. So it'd be like Apple with Amazon success.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So let's see. How androids alter your brain. Talking machines has changed the way we communicate. Most people spend more time talking to androids, smartphones, tablets, and entertainment systems than they do other people. That Just remove the word androids, right? And that's literally how we are right now.
Yeah.
A recent study has found that this kind of talking, called command-led communication, is characterized by instructions and orders rather than persuasion, humor, or intimacy. That adjustment to our everyday speech is altering our brains, with persuasion skills getting weaker through lack of use. All right.
I wonder if this is based on a real
article
concern about
yeah. Oh, this certainly is. We'll talk about that in a sec. So this is especially true of younger generations. Command-led communication has fostered a generation of adolescents with highly limited social skills. In the same study, young people were found to have developed very different communication centers in their brain. Employers have long complained of the difficulty in finding graduates who know how to influence and convince others. But with people, especially young people, spending more and more time with their machines, it's difficult to see how this situation will improve. So yes, Jess, this is actually based on actual real current concerns about the kind of rise of tablets and smartphones and the interaction that children are having with them at, obviously significantly younger than any generation prior, because now the next generation after us, our kids are having access to this stuff within a year or two of birth, right? They're having some degree of access to a touchscreen or a tablet or something like that, and so there is quite a big deal of stress around the lack of communication, because as they actually said right here, they specifically said the idea of that command-led communication, where it's like you're much more it's like a dictated communication where you are explaining what I want you to do next and where I need what steps I need you to take. It's almost like if everyone learned, when we were young, if everyone learned communication from programming in BASIC, right? Where it was just all if-then statements, and it was all, like literally directing the turtle in, in Logo to get from here to there. If that's the only way you learned to communicate as a child, how fucked up would we be as adults, right? If that was the only way you knew to communicate, you didn't understand how to emote and read facial, recognition of facial response and understanding, all of the issues we have now about people's inability to read face to face, because they start learning, or actually the reverse, right? People in our generation, people that have difficulty reading emotion in email and text, because you remove all of the facial and voice changes and things like that allow you to understand, sarcasm, or that was a joke, or so now people are so quick to get real pissed in a chat room because they're like, what a fucking asshole. I mean, literally, that's why emojis were created, right? Was to substitute in for facial recognition, because it was a way for somebody dump in the smiley face with the tongue sticking out and oh, you're not being a cock, you were just kidding, right? So
yeah, it's weird having a guy explain when no, you took it wrong. I mean, I definitely put a winky emoji in there. You're like, who the fuck are you?
Right. Well, yeah, and it's true, because it's also weird now because emojis are starting to enter into the into the corporate lexicon. And that was always kind of expected that would, it was always going to stay as a text messaging thing, right? And so, amongst friends.
Kids too.
But again, now people are starting to use it in work-related situations, because it, again,
I definitely do.
Right, people are starting to realize I could not use them and try to bypass them and then spend another 15 minutes crafting the email to make sure that I deliver the exact message that I want and make sure that nobody takes offense or misrepresents what I'm trying to say. Or I could just dump in the thumbs up and the smiley winky face guy, and everyone knows immediately I'm just joking around. And so it has just kind of taken over. So this is going in the reverse and saying, that's us trying to accommodate for we're trained to learn in one way with emotion and emoting and face-to-face recognition, and now it's superseded by this command-led communication, and so we are having trouble adjusting to that. Well, the next generation is the reverse, right? They're learning in the command-led communication, so they're having trouble adjusting to the face-to-face communication, and how do you show empathy and when you're so used to just going into a Reddit channel and just flaming the room and then just throwing in a grenade and leaving or whatever, how do you react when you actually walk into a room and have to interact with people at a party and shit like that? And that's just only going to get worse when you deal with these androids who are pre-deviancy in this game are very much they come across as literally zero emotion. So when you're interacting with them and all your interaction with them is just be go fucking get me a beer, or go do this, go, get me turn on the lights, do that, whatever. all of a sudden you have to interact with a human being, it becomes exponentially more difficult. So I think it's kind of interesting to see that this is already an issue that we are struggling with now, and to wonder how much worse is it going to get as we replace more of our communication with even with these digital assistants, Google Home and stuff like that, your Echoes and all that kind of stuff that are replacing even more of our communication.
So I Googled while we were having this conversation, I Googled command-led communication, but there's nothing out there that came back on my end. I'm just wondering, because here there's like actual studies on this. I'm wondering how much of these studies. I know, like for instance, I have a very young daughter, and her pediatrician said. And there's like several books out there talking about how, or credible books anyway, talking about how limiting screen time is key for your kids.
Yep.
So for many parents, practically a lot of times there's a lot of value in being able to throw on the TV to calm your child when they're like all over the place, and you need to go, you need to do something. You need to sit them down in a safe area. Absolutely. And just put a TV on to kind of hold their attention.
That's been an issue since we were little, right? I mean, there were parents struggling with like, it's just they're the babysitter, right? Because it keeps them mesmerized.
I mean, I agree. Like, you can't just sit your kid in front of the TV all day and just like not pay attention to him.
Right.
But the doctor also said, like earlier, I was like, well, I get that. If you're talking about like just mindless cartoons, or they're advancing a narrative that the kid doesn't really understand, if it's like a Disney movie meant for 11-year-olds, it's just gonna capture her attention with the bright colors and stuff like that. But like, I found like there's a channel called Baby First, right? And all of their programming is reinforcing like counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, teaching the alphabet, teaching basic words, stuff like that. And so I thought it was beneficial for her, and I brought this up. I'm like, well, what about a channel like that? And she was like, still, that kind of channel can like impair certain parts of communication. She was like, things I didn't think of. She was like, these cartoons, if a child is watching you in real time, 3-dimensional, being able to form words with your mouth and talking to them, right? There's a lot that she can glean from that and mimic and imitate and push her communication skills along. But then you deal with a 2-dimensional cartoon who's, if you really look at their mouth, they're not exactly forming the way things, the words are the way they are. You can't see a tongue moving around for like, where the tongue placement is for a S, or like, whatever sound you're making. So she was like, that could actually be detrimental if it's too much of that, because the child will become blind to how to actually form sounds with their mouth that she could have gleaned from you, but now is kind of shielded or camouflaged or obscured by the show.
Yeah, and also I want to throw out there too, because even just listening now after we are talking about this, especially now when we transition a little bit into, what this story is talking about, a little bit more into the kind of raising children thing. I clearly want to throw out there, this can become a semi-dangerous conversation to have, because what we don't want this to come across is that we are like talking shit about the way that other people raise their kids, right? Like, I don't want to make it seem like we are saying, oh, you're the fucking worst if you put your kid in front of a TV, because I clearly have done it and will continue to do it. And it's like, it is a thing where there are days you just have to fucking do it, right? So do not, like, as much as please don't say shit to us about it, we will definitely not do it to other people either, because that is not the point of this. It's more just like, this is already clearly an issue. And so it's interesting now that we're growing up for the first time with this generation where they are surrounded by it 100% of the time. Before, when we were little, like you said, it was being in front of a TV, but that was it, right? Now you can take your kid out and be like, here's the tablet, just go on Netflix, just so that you'll be quiet, so mom and dad can have like a dinner and relax, right? Here's my phone, just so you'll be quiet while we're in Target, because I just really need to buy this shit, and I don't want you, like, can I buy this? Can I do that? Can I go here? Can I run over here? Can I get kidnapped? It's like, no, please don't. Like, all of these things that you just do to try to like buy yourself some extra time. I think it is like, we're not saying it's wrong to do. We're just saying this is an ongoing issue that we're going to deal with. And actually, I do want to just toss out there, and we may actually type this up in the room if we get a chance. But this is even going back to 2013. There was an article that was posted on September 5th of 2013 and I believe this was Penn State University, and it is how our reliance on technology leads to a lack of rhetoric and ability to communicate. And it basically straight up says, while growing up in an era that includes many different technology bases all at our fingertips may seem like a great advantage over our parents and ancestors, it truly creates a disservice for the generations growing up in today's society. Because of the abundant amount of technology that's already present and the new creations that seem to be released every day, we have developed a reliance on our technology that causes us to lack the qualities that are needed to succeed outside of the technological world. And they go through and actually talk about like how kids are growing up having a harder time making friends because they're used to the idea, like when it's not a binary, oh, I just friend requested you and then you accepted it or didn't. Like it's like I actually have to like interact with you and convince you that I should be worthwhile becoming friends, or have an interaction with you that triggers a thing in your brain to make you feel that there is a reasoning to become friends. Kids are having trouble doing that, right? Because they're just used to being able to say, I would like to be friends now. Would you like to be friends now? Let us be friends now. And like then they don't throwback there. But like if you don't react to it, like they don't know how to kind of interact from there. So it is a pretty cool
even
article.
that throwback was a good like segue,
Yes.
because I was gonna say the same thing with dating. Like
Yes.
I don't know about you, like I've never used one of those. Well, actually, by the time these came out, you were probably already married.
Yeah.
But like Tinder and all that stuff, and
Right.
I'm not hating on anybody that does. But to me, that's just the whole swipe right, swipe left, and like it's taken away one of the big aspects to me of human communication, of being able to meet people in a real setting randomly, not in some kind of weird choose your RPG character mate, and get the proper stats, and then only if they hit the stat threshold, then meet them, and you've already made up your mind that they hit your list. Like back in the day, like that used to be the thing. Like women would be like, oh, or especially women were famous for this. Like, I've got my list and these qualities he has to have, and blah blah blah. And then they'd meet somebody in real life, and then the list would kind of be something that they'd go back to and what they prefer. But real life interactions and encounters would really determine whether somebody was compatible and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And there was a humanity to it. And you can argue, well, let's see how, divorce rate is super high, so how did that work out for you? But I don't know. To me, that was humanity. That was communication. And for men, like, again, this paradigm has shifted now, but it was like, your ability to pick up chicks or like, get dates or something like that was something of your own doing. Like, if you were able to pull women, that was because you were a smooth talker, or you were good looking, or you were whatever, and now it's just kind of like cold call. Let's throw up the best fucking weird, angle fucking profile picture I can get, and then say all the right things like you would with a fucking resume, and let's pop out all these. It's just, I don't know. It's shifted the dating game weird. I'm glad I'm out of the dating game where I don't have to deal with that.
Well, definitely that's true. And I think part of that is like we can go all the way back, and there's the old jokes, right, of like when you go out on a date, like your first date is never actually like on a date with that person. You're like on a date with their representative who's like, I'd like to introduce you to, And so that shit's been around forever. And I think the one thing I do want to say that so I agree with you on one part of that, right, is that there was that element of like you just had to kind of be thrown out into the wild and figure it out, right? You had to figure out how to interact with people. The one big difference, and neither one of us really necessarily had to deal with that, just because the circumstances of how the people we ended up with that we've known for long periods of time and had at different ways that we interacted or that we met them, right? Were a little bit different than just like meeting them in a bar or something like that. There is a difference when you get out, I think, especially now in today's world where, how hard everyone is out there working and how crazy and interact, like how kind of siloed off people can get in their worlds, and stuff like that just by nature of kind of the way the workforce is now versus even like 30 years ago. But like outside of, once you get out of college, I do know a lot of my friends, it does get significantly harder to just stumble into people right outside of college, like when you're not thrown into this world where there's a fishbowl and you're just surrounded by women or men, if you're or whoever you're into, you're surrounded by people that you might be interested in, and you just can literally just cold call and walk up to girls or guys in a bar and be like, what's up honey, or what's up dude, and like they could say yes or no, and then you're like on to the next one, fuck off, right? And like beyond that, it gets much harder, and especially if if you don't choose to interact with somebody at work, because a lot of people don't want to do that, right? Some people make a defined choice to say, I don't want to shit where I eat. Like, I don't want to try to date somebody at work, and so that's not a place where I'm just going to like meet somebody around the quote unquote, the water cooler, right? So that's why we did get into those things, obviously the Tinders and shit, where it's literally, those are mostly just like, let's meet up and fuck. I mean, for the most part, right? But like when you get more into the some of those things, I think it's called like Let's Do Lunch or something. I've seen commercials for, but like some of those are trying to set up these situations that are more natural, where they say, interact with somebody who you can meet up with that seems interesting enough, and you're just going to go up for like coffee or lunch, and then try to decide if it works out well enough that you want to pursue like an actual, date. You just might even meet them, like it's literally set. You might just meet them for like coffee. It might be a 15-minute thing, and if you decide, hey, we just didn't click, that's cool. But it's not just like we clicked on each other because we thought they're hot, and now we're going to go like on a date and then make it work in a more kind of manufactured way. But again, some of these things all come down to when everything is predetermined and kind of sliced up and put into like almost like you said, like your RPG character version of yourself. Whether it's dating or making friends or just interacting with people, I mean, we can talk all day about like chat rooms, right? You go in and chat room shit. I mean, most people go into chat rooms with the idea of one of two things, right? You're either going in to make people like be impressed with your life and show the best version of yourself, like look at this cool vacation, or look at this cool food I'm having, or look at this, look how awesome my wife is, or husband is, or boyfriend or girlfriend, and they're amazing and whatever, right? Or you're probably like us and you go into every chat room with the intention of like, I'm going to say something that's probably going to make people laugh. Like that's what you're trying to do, right? You're just like, you're trying to go in and stir some shit up and be funny, right? So it's like, those are what most people are trying to do. Most people aren't just having regular, pointless conversations, because everything is with a point, because you're going in there with a point to make a statement, to get somebody to respond to it, to, get likes, or to, to get the little smiley face emoji that somebody thought what you said was cool. Whereas like regular face-to-face communication, there are times where you literally just say to people like, hey, how's your day, right? Like fucking, I mean, we could go do throwback and go full circle back to like when we were talking about Red Dead Redemption. I spend half of that game just walking around holding down the button and just saying like, hey, what's up, fella? And like sometimes they'll be like, fuck you, and other times they're like, hey, what's up? And they walk away. But it's just because it feels more natural, because you're just interacting with people, not for the purpose of unlocking a mission or something, but just making it feel like the real world. And so as kids who are growing up having much less ability and understanding how to have pointless conversation just for the fact of interacting with another human being, so you feel like you're on this earth with other people and not in your own like, silo where the world revolves around you. The internet does not allow for that shit at all, because it makes everything be I'm sharing this story because I want you to like it. I'm sharing this picture because I want you to say something about it. I'm making this joke because I want you to laugh at it. I'm saying this thing because I want to validate myself. I never just walk into a thing and say, like, no one just goes on Facebook and says, hey guys, what's going on? You know what I mean? And so, like, it's a lost art, which is only going to get worse 30 years in the future, when we're all just like, I don't need to do that shit with anything because I have everything here that I need to communicate electronically. So actually going out into the real world will become fucking, like, that will become the work, right? Interacting with people will be where you're like, fuck, I got to do this shit now? All right. We're all going to have that, like, facial blindness where we're like, is this dude smiling at me or is he about to punch me? Like, I can't tell because I'm not used to talking to people anymore.
If we like when you and I are old enough to remember when the internet first like came around, and
yes.
I remember like since it did, like as social media just grew and grew in power, my biggest complaint was often that the internet warriors out there, the motherfuckers are just, they've lost their ability to empathize or to really take stock of how serious what they're saying is and what impact it has, and what the repercussions would be, because there's no repercussions for them, right? They could hide behind the keyboard. Yep. They could just drop like, yeah, you're a fucking stupid bitch, and then they didn't have to worry about like a boyfriend punching them in the face, or the woman herself punching them in the face, or they just didn't have to worry about repercussions. But now, and so my mindset used to be to all those keyboard warriors like, fuck you, you would never say this to me in real life, right? Yeah. But now, I think there is bleed over. My concern is the other way. People are so used to being dehumanized, or not, to not having to consider
disconnected,
human,
right? Disconnected.
Yeah, that they could just, in their everyday life, I think now their internet behavior is actually bleeding over that way instead of the other way around, where they're becoming more disconnected, in real life.
Yes, I agree. That's actually a really good point, because that's not the thing we ever thought would happen. We always thought it would be the inability to interact with people because, you're like, oh, I'm so comfortable dropping word grenades into a room on the internet, and so now I'm just going to shut down face to face because I realize I don't have that protection anymore, so I don't know how to interact with people. But now
they're becoming bolder.
Right, they're becoming bolder because they're like, oh, I do this shit all the time. So now I feel comfortable walking up and just saying to somebody's face, like, oh, you're a fucking asshole, or oh, you're gross, or oh, look how fat you are, or let me, right in your face, let me record you and say, look how gross this lady is because she's trying to work out at a gym or whatever, and post that because I feel like I'm protected because I'm so used to being protected. And it's like
racist shit too.
Right? Yeah.
I think a lot of racists have now they've got their fire going on the internet, and then it's only so long before they're like, fuck, well, I said it all the time on the internet. I'm gonna be bold now and say shit in real life.
Yep.
Oh, why did you hit me?
Yeah, it is crazy. Well, and I think also a bigger part too is that you have a lot of people that are not still reactive. So you have the people that are willing to go out and say that kind of shit, and then they're just like embarrassing people, and then other people are shutting down. So it's like you're emboldening those people to become more combative and shitty, because the normal person is going to be like, oh, what a fucking asshole, and they're going to be like embarrassed, and maybe they'll shut down. And so it's like, so you have these people that are like willing to shame people in public because the average person isn't, like, most people don't just want to get into a fight, right? Most people just don't. It's why, I mean, it's the oldest story in the book, right? But it's why when you're like waiting online at fucking, Disney or fucking Great Adventure or whatever, when there's the one asshole who's like, hey, oh, I'm just going to walk up to the front because like my family's up there. 99.9% of people are not going to confront that guy and be like, prove to me.
They don't even want conflict. It's not even just physical fight.
Right. Most people will just get out of the way and let him go. Right. Because most people do not like conflict. So that's the problem, is that the people that are emboldened to be dicks are now even more steamrolling over the rest of, society, who doesn't typically want to react or respond or, run the risk of getting punched in the face or whatever it might be. So you have this kind of, this weird like the stalemate of society that we used to be at, which is like most of us stayed in check because most people didn't want to fucking cause a problem. They might whisper shit to their friends, but they're not going to walk up and be like, nice outfit, asshole, or whatever. They might just kind of whisper it when the person can't look, right? But now those people feel emboldened to talk shit, and then everyone else is now being depressed even more because they're like, fuck, I wouldn't want to start shit before, and now I really don't want to start shit because that guy seems crazy because he just walked up and said that shit to me. So it's making our like communication be even more fucking thrown out of whack. It's just fucking everything up. Like, it's just making everything so much worse. So,
oh, damn, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but this just brings up a couple of. So in the Marine Corps, one of these days, like we used to have like the basic training that we had regular classes as well, just like everyday things, and I went in doing my basic stuff in a time of war, and at that time they were driving home very specific points. One of the lessons basically that we learned from this Marine Corps captain kind of told the story. He was like, hey, back when there were wars between the Japanese and the Chinese, they would a lot of Japanese soldiers, they would bring like a Chinese POW in the room, and with the new soldiers they would get them in there, they'd get the whole group kind of chanting, have this POW like strung up, and they would have the new soldier kill him with a bayonet, while the other guys cheered him on. And it was like their indoctrination. Yeah. And that is a very Spartan and asshole and fucking non-ethical or non-humane way to do things.
That's some Lord of the Flies shit right there.
Yeah, but I mean the point was that the reason they did it was because they didn't want these new soldiers who had never been to war and weren't used to killing people, and they didn't want the first time they had to kill somebody, and especially an enemy in that uniform, to be on the field of battle, right? They wanted them to get all their hesitations out of the way, and so they fucking made it into this tribal ritual thing and like peer pressured them into doing it. So whatever kind of hang-ups that they had were taken care of on the front end, and then they validated it by continuing to like say, hey, good job, you're part of the family now, like that kind of thing, right?
Yep.
You still see this kind of shit going on with gangs, But what the captain that was teaching us this class kind of said, we do it in our normal armed forces now too, but we do it in a more humane way. We're not taking POWs and stabbing them, but what do? We reinforce, like in the Marine Corps, we constantly a way of greeting another Marine. You just say, hey, kill, It's this constant warrior ethos that you kind of embolden each other. You just reinforce it through I guess culture and dog whistle words. I guess dog whistle is typically a badly used term. I'm using it for lack of a better term right now, but that's how we do it. Like the Marine Corps forces, a lot of it's like code of conduct and culture. It's by people being just kind of repeating and adhering to the same core values, and kind of enforcing this warrior ethos, and so by the time you get to battle, you may not have killed somebody, but you've gotten as close to being okay or having come to terms with it as you can beforehand. If this makes any sense.
They're just breaking you down a little bit so that
you're being trained.
The things that would normally kick in and tell you, I can't do this, or this isn't right, or I'm too scared, or whatever. You kind of chipped away enough of those things beforehand so that when that moment comes, there's a better chance that you'll follow through with it and you won't kind of second guess yourself, which is,
just through social programming.
Right. And well, to your point too, those are things that are, the kind of any type of social programming, it could be positive or negative, right? Because reinforcing good behavior is also social programming. Is hey, we tell you all the time, be good to other people, treat other people with kindness and respect. So when there's the situation where you drive by and see that somebody just got into a car accident, you would be more willing to put yourself at risk and stop and help that person, right? Because you've been trained to believe that, the world does not revolve around you and you should want to help other people. And similarly, so it obviously would maintain that you would have to chip away at somebody's, their social humanity in terms of treating other people as everyone else deserves to be alive and everyone else deserves to live and whatever. You have to break down some of that if you're going to send somebody off to war, because you can't expect them to just go in and be able to handle that type of thing. I think saying the term dog whistle is probably
an in-depth examination of that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I do want to hear the point you were just about to make.
No, I was just going to say probably saying the term dog whistle is probably pretty apt in that situation, because I think trying to break somebody down so that they are willing to kill someone, even if it is on the field of battle, it is still to commit violence, even if it is through war. That is still, more of a dog whistle mentality, because the whole thing is you're trying to turn off that trigger that would normally kick in that would say, fuck, I can't do this. This person, I can't kill this person, right? It's to try to dehumanize a little bit of that thing.
You just hit right on the head of what I was going to say to join in with you is yes, there's goods and bads. The good part of it is obviously that, you don't freeze up and you don't fail to pull the trigger, and then the guy on your right or the guy on your left doesn't die as a result of you not hesitating. Yes. The bad side is that it does there, for instance, for most of the wars, there were a lot of common terms used for the enemy that were racially dangerous, or they were racist, straight up had racist underpinnings, and may not have been the typical racist words, but over time they became racist because of how they were then later used outside of just a war context. But I remember when we were going to Iraq, the guys that were coming back referred to everybody over there as Hajis. Back here, Hajis, and if you haven't, I'd never heard the word before. And, at that time, there was no real, it's a racist thing, but it's, in looking back, it became a racist thing. It became a way to, you think of I even heard of somebody in college had made a speech about people referring to people as townies, in college, locals, and how it was kind of dehumanizing in a way, because they said they're not us, so you can kind of not be worried about it, care about their feelings or but it was the same way. It's you were being prepared to go over there and see anybody that was living in the country that you were going over to fight, and their lives is less than human or less worth yours. So if somebody had to get fucking murked, I wouldn't even think in a second it's one of them. not one of us. Even if it was like an innocent that it was like, hey, you think somebody's about to draw on you? Like, if it's even remotely dangerous, don't even think twice.
Of course.
Don't even think fucking twice. And
right, because they can't put you in a situation, right, where they say, like, hey, you might be standing right next to the shittiest fucking private in the entire fucking world. Like, the worst racist scumbag in the army, or in the Marines, standing next to you, that you're like, this guy fucking I think is like legit probably evil and murdered like fucking animals as a kid, and it might even be like almost a serial killer. And that lady over there from the enemy country could literally just be a super innocent lady who just came out of her house at the wrong place at the wrong time. But you need to be programmed that if it comes down to that shit, you're not going to be like, well, sorry, Bill, like, you got to take a bullet because she seems like she's innocent. The whole thing needs to be killed before, kill them to protect your side. And there's no other way to train people to be like that other than to try to, break down the enemy as inherently always bad, right? They have to be bad, because if humans aren't built to just straight up go out and be like, yeah, I'm just cool, like most people, right? They're obviously crazy people, but most people are not built to just be willing to walk into a room or walk onto a field and just start shooting people. So these are the things where, like, when you train people how to interact and see other people, like, part of what you guys had to go through was to rewire your brain to interact with human beings differently than we are normally brought up to do, right? And so to kind of tie it back to the story, tie back to the story is also that, because this is part of what's happening right now is our brains are being rewired on how we interact with other people, and it's being done at a young age because we don't have all the same interactions that have existed for right. Since the dawn of time, like since the dawn of at least since the dawn of civilized time. The interactions that took place just out of necessity, as they're being replaced by these types of, in this story, this kind of made-up command-led communication, but this idea of technological communication, it puts that barrier between us and other people. So when that moment comes to treat another person with the kind of generalized respect that, like in the past, the army used to have to break down, that may not have to be broken down anymore, right? Because it may have already been evaporated or just disintegrated just by the change in society, which is kind of crazy.
And we'll leave the discussion for another time, but I will just quickly reference it here, is that, like, if it was hard for us to go out there and worry about self-preservation and also show adequate concern for the lives of the people that lived in the country in which we were fighting against an enemy who we weren't even sure was an enemy until they attacked.
Right,
who's hidden amongst the innocents.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, and we were much better trained than police officers back here, I believe. So you can imagine it was difficult for us, how difficult it is for these police officers to make these split-second calls under the fear for their own lives, and having to deal with, and then again that leads into, well, then are they being sent out there in a, no-win situation without adequate training, which I believe they are. They don't have adequate training, and they're being
police?
Put in bad. Yeah. I believe that, so that, but that's a whole other discussion for another time. But I will say, but yeah, I do. I mean, just think about if that's tough for the armed forces, how tough it is for a police officer with very little, with like a fraction of the weapons training and combat training that we had, just given a badge basically in some basics at the academy, and all right, now go fucking police the streets. And oh yeah, we're gonna send you to a high crime urban neighborhood that you don't live in, dominated by people of another race that you're not a part of, and you're actually probably scared of because of your own fucking background going in. So imagine if the second you set foot in Newark, New Jersey, you're already fucking scared. How much more likely you are to pull the trigger. And you may really reasonably have a fear for your life at the time, but I mean, it doesn't make it right. I'm just saying the system is kind of fucked.
Yes. Well, we could also go down paths of talking about when you look at the breakdown of people that typically pursue that role, like to be in law enforcement.
Oh, like law enforcement?
The background of people that go in terms of education and potential risk of people that go in already have a like underlying degree of racism, is like there's all these other issues that happen in because of the power that being in law enforcement already provides you, so it attracts a certain type of person. So then you kind of this powder keg of all these things mixed together. Yeah, we could talk about that. And I don't think people came to Detroit Become Human to hear us talk about that. But I think that is an interesting topic, considering we are now 50 minutes in and we have not actually played single thing. I've pressed like 2 buttons.
We did read an article though.
Yeah, we did read the entire article, which is awesome.
Let's start playing.
So you ready to dig into this? So that is how androids are altering our brain. Let's go back in and let's get this party started. Thank you.
Play some Russian roulette.
Exactly. All right.
Connor.
We did not. Oh, we forgot. Yeah, we did not say. So it's Russian roulette, and it is a Connor mission. So he is the android. Is he a police officer or just a hostage negotiator?
I mean, he's an android
he's a full-on police officer,
used,
right?
but he's not. He's not seen. Remember, this society doesn't see androids, so he's a police officer in the way that a canine is.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, so yes, right. Oh, we're back here again. Okay, this is where he gets all his like missions and shit. This is like the Matrix. And he's walking around with an umbrella but refusing to use it for some reason. Even though it's raining, which doesn't make sense, but you do.
Probably doesn't bother him at all.
Yeah, but why have the umbrella then if you don't need it?
Yeah, I don't. That's a good point.
In a fucking digital world, too, you're just walking around with a fucking umbrella that is completely unnecessary. Let's see what that thing's all about. I will touch that thing. Wrong hand. Wrong hand. It clearly shows the thumb on the other side. Alright, I don't know. What? I'll try that one more time. Oh, same thing is going to happen. Okay. Oh no. Okay, weird. I don't know what that was about, but...
Just fucked him using his right hand to touch it.
He's a weirdo.
Connor thinks... He is a strange guy.
He is super... I mean... Well, they did talk about it in the last one, that like there are things done about him that I guess are like... it's speaking of Apple and shit like that we talked about earlier, but like how he was created probably through a billion, bytes of research that said like, oh, this exact voice and this mannerism and this thing
it's
is
not threatening.
Yeah, it's like the most non-threatening, and everyone will respond well to it, and like whatever, So it's kind of interesting when you see, that even though in some ways like he pisses off Hank quite a bit, it's like, no, actually, you may think you're annoyed by me, but in reality, I've been like so focus tested down to being the ideal version of like a person that somebody would never be like nervous by or uncomfortable or whatever. Let's start down there. I was trying to see, because I know last time I missed a bunch of things. I'm trying to see if there's other things I'm not seeing, but I don't know.
He carries the umbrella for that reason, for appearances.
Yeah, to make you non-threatened, or to make you feel comfortable.
Hello, Amanda.
Because you expect that he should be carrying
I've been expecting you.
And then maybe if he encounters somebody while it's raining, he uses the umbrella for them.
Oh, like this? Cool, even though this place doesn't exist, I'm so confused. Maybe it does exist now. I'm confused.
Remember, nobody ever told you this wasn't a real place.
I know, I just assumed that, yeah.
Pity you didn't manage to capture it.
Oh, fuck, sorry.
I agree.
Just got mad at me for that?
I may not be suited for this investigation.
I love Connor. He's great.
Maybe you should consider replacing me.
Wow. Shitted on myself, and Amanda liked that.
Did you manage to learn anything?
Did. Learned about the diary.
I found its diary, but it was encrypted. It may take weeks to decipher.
What else?
The walls of the apartment were covered with drawings of labyrinths and other symbols. Like the other deviants, it seemed obsessed with RA9.
You came very close to capturing that deviant.
Did. Shut the
How is your relationship with the lieutenant developing?
Sorry, Amanda.
It's improving. I've come to understand him better, and he's growing accustomed to my presence.
I love that he's like, I'm learning more about him, and he doesn't hate me. He lets me hang out there without wanting to punch me.
We don't have much time.
I guess that's good.
Deviancy continues to spread. It's only a matter of time before the media finds out about it. We need to stop this, whatever it takes.
I will solve this investigation, Amanda. I won't disappoint you.
A new case just came in. Find Anderson and investigate it.
See you later, Amanda. Alright. If that's the end of it. Okay, I was going to say, if that's the end of it, we talked for 50 minutes, and I played for 3. On course.
Thank you for traveling with Detroit Taxi. We look forward to seeing you again soon.
Right. Detroit taxis. And it gets warm to me. They still have those trash containers, same ones that we have now. They have not improved their trash process. Oh, what's that? What's that over there? Let's see. Oh, it is raining here. Remember when sex was safe and driving was risky? Okay, that's pretty good. He's really gonna hate me if I start peeking in his windows, but I'm doing it anyway. Can't see shit. Mr. Anderson. Oh, yeah, there's his dog. Creeping around, Hank. I'm creeping around. Like
did you even knock on his door? I didn't see.
Oh, shit. No, I did
Lieutenant
not.
Anderson!
Boom. No, I just... Oh, look at that!
Easy.
What a pimp.
Sumo, I'm your friend.
Oh, I remembered his name.
See? I know your name. I'm here to save your owner.
Oh, his hair got messed up a little bit. I was just drunk.
Is that a Great Dane or whatever? Or
Saint
a Corso,
Bernard.
a Cane Corso? Is it a Saint Bernard?
Saint Bernard, I
I
think.
realized they were that big.
Yeah, some of them are humongous. But
I don't think Saint Bernards are aggressive, are they?
No, I don't think so. No, they're usually like rescue dogs. They're the ones that they send. Oh, maybe that's not a Saint Bernard. I can't tell. Oh shit, he's got his gun there.
Probably a
That's
mix.
not good. Yeah, it could be. He looks dead. Scotch whiskey, black lamb, 40% alcohol content, just like you, Jess.
Hey!
Hey. 357 Magnum, 1 bullet remaining. Oh, he's playing his Russian
The dog
roulette.
went right to sleep like, oh, it's
Yeah,
just
he was
Hank
like,
again.
Yeah, you see, just Hank being Hank. He's all right. Slight arrhythmia, no sign of trauma. Scotch whiskey, alcohol content. All right.
Lieutenant.
Later coma suspected.
Good.
I think if I were
Wake up,
one of the
Lieutenant.
people on the corporate side of this game, I would have tried to get like Johnny Walker or some
It's
kind
me.
of whoever wants their whiskey,
Right.
their Scotch, their
going
Scotch
to
to have
sober
been
you up
featured in the
here.
game and maybe
I
like
want
see if I can
any
sell
of this money, you
advertising
fucking
space.
Right.
Get the fuck out of my house.
I'm sorry, Lieutenant.
Fuck out of my house. Sounds like us on our last episode.
Thank you in advance for your cooperation.
Get the fuck out of here.
Come the fuck. He's gonna vomit.
Sumo, attack. Good job.
Good job. That's great. Oh, fuck.
Thank you in advance for your cooperation was hilarious.
What'd you say?
I think thank you in advance for your cooperation was hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, leave me alone, you asshole. I'm not going anywhere.
Tell the dog to fucking attack him.
He's
I'm like
really-
10 seconds on delay.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing? Oh, no. I don't want a bath. Thank you.
Sorry, Lieutenant. It's for your own good.
Dope. I really want to read those messages that he had on his sink. It was like, I'm not grumpy.
Shaving or not is one of them.
Is that what it said?
Yeah. One of them.
What the fuck are you doing?
A homicide was reported 43 minutes ago.
He could have really fucking hurt him pushing him into the tub like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Jesus,
very dangerous.
This guy's not going to feel any pain at this point, though.
He gets assaulted in his own house by his own fucking android. Can't you just leave me alone?
You'll love how much he hates him.
You seem to have personal issues. You should consult a professional who
Why?
can help you.
That's not what I wanted to say.
You hear me? Get the hell out of here!
I understand. It probably wasn't interesting anyway. A man found dead in a sex club downtown. Guess they'll have to solve the case without us.
Connor rules.
You know, probably wouldn't do me any harm to get some air. There's some clothes in the bedroom there.
That was amazing.
I'll go get them.
I'll go get them. Let's see, are they going to let me read them? Hank sobered up. Today I will be fabulous. Keep shaving. I'm not grumpy. I just don't like you. And shaving or not. Okay, nice. Bring Hank his clothes.
What do you want to wear?
Whatever.
What do you want to wear?
Oh, hippie, stripey, or streaky? Hell yeah. Hell yeah, we're going hippie.
Stripey looks like the fucking, you know, when the NFL had those clothes for like the New York Giants.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Oh,
I like for all the teams with stripes.
I also at first thought it said hippie strippy, and I was like, "What is strippy?" He's dressing up like a stripper. Like he's going to the strip club.
Bring him a thong.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Put this G-string on, please.
5 minutes, okay?
Sure.
This is the most like what's it called? Oh, gross. There you go. Wait for Hank. This is the most what's it called? What's that show called? The fucking God, the TV. I mean the movie, the Lethal Weapon. This is like the most Lethal Weapon shit they've had.
Too old for this shit.
Yeah, I'm getting too old for this shit. All right, and then we will go. Time to pull the plug up. Screening for depression, and then Tainted Love. Oh, there's North. Sales of Android Ultimate. Oh shit! Damn, how you doing? All right. Can't wait to read that one. Anything else in here that I could learn about Hank? No, it does not seem like there is. Let's go check. Do not want to listen to him vomiting, but I will. But I will. Let's see.
Are you okay, Lieutenant?
Still throwing up.
Okay, Lieutenant. Fuck off, Connor.
Fuck you. Hey, Sumo. He's a big fucking dog. Sounds like a pig.
Huh.
Wow, his arms are gigantic. Oh, he's got. Why does he have like a basketball? Hank loves jazz. Nice.
I wonder if the dog could tell he's a robot.
Yeah.
An android.
Yeah, that's true. That'd be cool. Autumn Blues, Michigan Brothers, Detroit Soul Records. Oh, am I downloading it? That'd be amazing. Oh, they got the game on. That's pretty cool. I just noticed that. Yeah, maybe let's put the gun away. Nah. I'm not saying shit about that. I don't think that'll help our relationship. Pick up that chair. Oh, I like how he stepped over the gun. That's cool. Hey, it's the cleaning simulator again. Pick up all Hank's shit that he threw around the room like a fucking lunatic. Oh no. Bummer. Deceased Cole Anderson. That sucks. Died 2035. Oh, so he died like 3 years ago in this. Okay.
Yeah, right about when this guy went downhill.
Yeah. Damn, look at his baller outfit.
Be a good dog, Sumo. I won't
He
be
sobers
long.
up pretty quickly, huh? 5 seconds ago, he's like, "Get him, Sumo! Good dog!"
Right. He probably took one of those drugs.
Oh, the ice. Here we go. All right.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Nice. Let's see.
Throwing up helped, though.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, that definitely does. Let's see. How did we do over here? 76% completed. All right. Cool, man. All right, we made it through another one in 15 minutes after 50 minutes of talking. All right, so should we walk through this stuff?
Sure.
All right, so we'll kick it over to the world stats as we have done every other time. See where everyone else
World
fell.
stats.
World stat. We'll do that every time as well. Emerge in the Zen Garden.
I got
Joined
83%, by the way.
You did? All right, nice. Arrive at Hank's place. So there we go. All right, so now we come to some of the split-offs. So I checked the car, I checked the bedroom window, and I checked the front living room window. Did you do any of those other things?
The top two are ring the bell, ring again. So you checked those windows and shit. You never even bothered to ring the doorbell.
I didn't. Well, see, because I also in my head I thought it was going to be one of those like, oh, once I ring the doorbell, it's going to initiate like the next sequence. You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, let me explore everything outside first, and then it just happened that when I found out, when I got there, I was like, oh, shit's going down. You know what I mean? So I actually was I was trying to go the other way where I was like, let me explore everything outside before I go into the house, and so I missed that. But that's cool. So that's okay. And then,
so I checked the front living room window, and then underneath that, I did not get whatever that unlock thing is, but I did get the one under that, which is the last one. It's knock on the door. Cool. So I rang the bell. I rang again, knocked on the door.
So it seems like everything you did differently than me is probably had to do with the front door.
Yeah.
All right. So down here then, arrive at Hank's place. So none of that shit worked. And then obviously I went to the spot Hank and break in and enter the house.
Yeah, we all had to.
Yep. And then Hank's dog attacks. And I calmed Hank's dog, 91%. So I assume that probably came down to doing the search earlier to know Sumo's name so that I was able to say Sumo to him, as opposed to, I guess, people, if they didn't do the research when he was, like, when you're sitting at his desk, you probably don't find out his dog's name, and then you just, maybe the dog attacks you. Did you calm Hank's dog as well?
Yep.
Okay. And then analyze Hank, take Hank to the bathroom, and then I had a distant attitude with him. How about you?
I had an understanding attitude, 35%.
Okay. Yep. So I did the more like, hey, we have to get to work. Like I just went right to, I think I said pragmatic or whatever, which was like, he said some shit that I actually was like, we've talked in this game that usually the game nails exactly what I want it to do. That was one where I was like, no, I don't think that he would go right to like, you should probably go see a fucking health professional because I already know he gets pissed about that. But whatever, it is what it is. And then I did the hippie shirt, which 39% of people did. Which one did you do?
Hold on, I'm looking at your screen, which is there's a little delay. So
okay.
All right, so you took all three of them, like I did, but the one I actually chose or unlocked was the streaky shirt.
And you did the streaky, okay. So we split. It was 39% each for the hippie shirt and the streaky shirt.
Yeah.
All right, and then
it doesn't matter which one you choose.
Right. So find the picture of Hank's son, 90% of people, so I unlocked that. And then learned Hank's interests about liking jazz and petting Hank's dog. So did you get those 3 as well?
I didn't pet his dog. I didn't learn his interests. I did find the picture of his son. Above that, I learned that Hank was playing Russian roulette, which I thought you learned, but I guess
I did when I scanned the gun, but I could have. I guess if I'd questioned him, maybe you questioned. Remember, it said question or put it away.
Awesome. Yeah.
So maybe
just because my
said
default is that you don't play around with stuff like with suicidal gestures, and
right.
So that's
Yep.
That's why I just kind of went for that.
Uh,
All right, so Pull the Plug and Tainted
yep.
Love. I discovered both of them, and I can go look those up as you keep.
Cool. Again, always funny to me that like 45% of people got Pull the Plug and 35% of people read Tainted Love. Like people just decided not to go to the next article, but
like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. And the good one, the second one's the good one too. That's the sex one. Hank is ready. Hank is ready, and then left for the Eden Club. So the big differences were really, it was kind of how you broke into the house for the most part were the biggest differences in this one. There weren't a whole lot of different choices between what did you do before you broke into his house and the questions on, what did you find out about him while he was still vomiting. Cool.
Right. Can you go back? What are the name of the Tainted Love and Pull the Plug?
And Pull the Plug, yes.
Pull the Plug sounds like a euphemism.
Yeah, Pull the Plug was the one.
Pull
the Plug was the one that we were talking about. Yeah, it was the one that it was actually goes along with what we were talking about earlier, which is like getting kids, I believe, to pull to disconnect for a little while being beneficial. I think that's what the article. I mean, just reading it briefly, I think it was something about that, which is cool that we were just talking about it and how it's going to be part of this.
So it looks like I'm having trouble finding. Well, I found to Pull the Plug. Okay. So this article is Screening for Depression, Time to Pull the Plug. Yep. A recent study led by Dr. P. Gorgansky has linked the amount of time we spend in front of screens with the widespread antidepressant epidemic. From the time we wake up to the time we go to bed, we are surrounded by screen-based devices. Of course, too much TV definitely won't make your eyes go square, but it can have other harmful consequences. These include poor sleep, strained eyesight, and lack of face-to-face interaction driving emotional underdevelopment and depression. Gorgansky's study found that 2 in 3 people take antidepressants and lack of social interaction is the leading cause. Meanwhile, the average person spends 82% of their time communicating to a device rather than in person, and relationships are suffering for it. In response, CyberLife has introduced a home psychologist add-on for your Android in a bid to teach us how to communicate again. How ironic is that? The upgrade costs $150, but can benefit the whole family with group therapy sessions and activities adapted for children and adults. But Gorgansky is skeptical. Our society is hooked in technology. I don't think yet more technology is the answer. Just go outside and talk to someone.
Nice. Nice.
So I think we've covered this kind of ad nauseum before even playing, and this relates to that and reinforces some of the same things we said. I don't know if you have anything else on it. I don't.
No, I think that is literally everything we were talking about, and so I think they're just continuing that story, right, to continue to drive home the idea of this, lack of interaction that we're having and how it's having a negative interaction on us or a negative impact on us. So I don't think we have anything else to say on that. The other one I'm interested to see, I think this one seems more like the sex, or not the partner androids and all that.
Sales of Android intimate partners are exploding. I see what they did there. Tainted Love. So sales of Android intimate partners are exploding. Androids capable of satisfying customers' sexual and emotional needs have been a phenomenal success, such that CyberLife has been battling to keep stores stocked. Though the idea seemed far-fetched initially, CyberLife's gamble has paid off. These androids offer nothing less than a full partner experience for men or women. The advantages are many. Androids take care of the house, cook to a high standard, and fulfill any sexual fantasy without ever saying, "Not tonight, honey. I have a headache." Sales of Android Internet partners are exploding. While CyberLife initially focused on urban singles to buy its models, this year's record divorce rate seems to show that many men and women today prefer to live with an Android than with a human partner. This won't help the already plummeting birth rate, which raises serious questions about the role androids play in our society. Ooh, so there's some stuff to talk about there.
Yeah. Well,
Let me start with
they added that
plummeting
extra
birth
little
rate.
twist
To
at the
me,
end.
20 years in the future would not seem to be a problem.
Right.
I would think that would be good. Less resources.
Well, especially when I mean, remember the cover of this article said like worldwide population reaches 100 billion or whatever it was, or so clearly that's not an issue. I guess the bigger issue comes down to if it continues to stay that way, then you get to a point where you're not replenishing the population, and so eventually down the line that becomes a problem. And it's probably much harder to reverse that trend when it becomes like an issue than to try to prevent it, in advance. You know what I mean? Like if all of a sudden you're like, oh, we're turning into like children of men and we're running out of people, and now we're trying to reconnect people and try to turn off this connection to the androids and get them back in line with people is probably harder to do. But we seem like in this world they're so far, beyond it being a problem that this probably could help.
Right.
But yeah, no, that part is less, I think, the issue than the replacement of partners just in general, right, and intimacy. And which I guess part of this, I mean, I'll just throw out and I want to hear what you have to say about it, but part of this is very similar to some of the circumstances and situations that are happening now with like the ready, access people have to pornography via the internet, and how it actually is impacting a lot of relationships, and it's actually impacting a lot of, like sexual relationships, in that people are like, oh, like, she or he's going to be annoying, or they're too tired or whatever. So instead of like trying, like in the past, you'd be like, hey, honey, like, are you sure? Like, hey, you sure? Let's try. Or like, oh, maybe like I have a headache, and then you try to, not that you push them to do something they don't want to do, but relationships would always be like
you're walking into a minefield.
You know what I'm saying? So yes, I'm trying to protect myself by saying no, but what I'm saying is there has always been there's always been in the past the situations where one partner or the other maybe doesn't initiate, and the other one is forced to kind of try to be the initiator, right? For whatever reason. And I'm not saying somebody says no, please, and you're like, fuck it, I'm doing this anyway, right? I'm not saying that. I'm saying more one person is just like, I'm tired, I'm going to go to bed, and the other person says,
just try to talk them into it, even though they didn't want to do it. Okay,
or the other one just has to be the one that initiates all the time, right? That's just always been a thing.
I'm setting traps for you.
You are, and I'm okay with it, because I get that the underlying issue here is also a negative, right? That the fact that yes, somebody would try to talk somebody into sex. We've talked about that also, but that has always been relationships that after a certain period of time, there's very rarely does it always maintain where both people are 100% in sync in their like sexual needs, right? It becomes one person may want it more than the other, one person is tired and the other person wants it, and then the next person, they had a bad person in the bed.
She feels like it. My wife is Conan the Barbarian.
She fucking tears you apart whenever she's ready. You just fucking have to deal with it and then go cry in the corner.
Yeah, exactly.
But and the reason why I was bringing all that up is specifically because I'm saying with the advent of easy access to pornography, it creates such an easier out for people to not have to push when the other person's like not in the mood, right? If you're
talking about masturbating instead of sex, that's a poor substitute.
Well, so the difference between, I mean, and this is an actual issue that people do talk about, like the idea of mental stimulation from pornography, not just like walking into the bathroom and just like reminding yourself of something or imagining a story and masturbating. That's one thing. But the fact that people can so easily access all different types of pornography now, and if you don't have access to somebody that is, whether it's a partner who doesn't want to have sex or you just actually don't have a partner, you are not, people are not as easily stuck in a situation now where they don't have another outlet. And so when that starts to cascade downward into, okay, well, when I know there's a back end situation where I don't have to work or ask for it or push or try or convince them to be me. They're tired and they're like whatever, and then I have to deal with like the after effects of talking about it or whatever. People now have this thought of like, I can just go like take care of myself and then go to sleep or whatever. So that's already happening now. Now imagine once you start adding in the idea of like this, a real substitute for the person, but it's a person that will like never say no and will never not do what you want them to do, and they're essentially a prostitute in most ways, except you don't have to pay them and deal with the the legal aspect of it,
or you pay for them up front.
Right, you don't have to pay them each time, and you don't have to deal with the legal aspect of or I guess probably people also have the dirty aspect of prostitution, right? Like after doing it, they feel gross and dirty or whatever. Whereas maybe with the androids, that is alleviated because you're like, it's really no different than like just masturbating technically, or using like a fleshlight or some bullshit. If you can get your brain into that space, it probably does alleviate a lot of the mental gymnastics that people probably have to do to use a prostitute. You know what I mean? Like to convince yourself to do it. This probably feels safer and easier and less gross. So people are like, I can just do this, and then I never actually have to deal with like keeping a person happy or whatever. That would become a real problem for relationships, right? Because you get all of the interaction. I mean, that story basically said they could provide 100% of the relationship, the partner experience. So it's not even just like a prostitute where you're like, oh, well, at the end, then I hand them money and then they get the fuck out of there, right? Like this is like somebody who does all the other things that you need in a partner. So if you want them to fucking hold you afterwards or whatever, like I guess they'll do that. Or if you want them to like fucking cook you dinner and have a special night beforehand and then have sex with them, or not have sex, you just want to share a moment with them, like they'll do all that too. So it even supersedes the options that we have on the table right now. So
let's do an exercise. All right.
Okay.
We'll go as far as we go if you're comfortable with it. You can choose not to answer these if you really don't want to. But
okay.
If you're like hypothetically, if your wife went and masturbated on her own, would you be bothered by that? Or are you okay with that?
Yeah, it'd probably be like this. Fine. Do what you got to do.
Okay. What if she uses a vibrator?
Oh, to me at that point it's just a sex toy that's the sole purpose of it. So if you're going to be okay with the masturbation part, I don't see how you could be upset with the vibrator part, because it's part and parcel.
All right, what if she watches internet porn while masturbating?
I guess no, I don't see an issue. Like, again, these are all just... I feel like the first issue is the one that would be the one that there are probably people that say, no, you should never be allowed to masturbate, because if you want to do that, then just come have sex with me because I'm right here. And, like, once you're able to get past that part, all of these other things seem to be like, why would you have a problem with that? Like, it's not an issue.
I'm with you on all three of these so far. All right, so now we get into the tougher questions. All right, an android like this comes out, and it just becomes like it's similar to a human, but it's not actually human. Do you mind if, for some reason, like your wife starts having sex with an android?
Yeah, that would be a bigger issue, right? Because in my head, the reason that you are doing it is to now not just get the sexual gratification that like masturbation allows you to do, right? Because the reason for masturbation is just like you need the sexual release or whatever, right? So somebody goes and does that to just kind of get it out, right? Just to be done with it, and you can do it to yourself. I mean, that's the purpose of it. You do it to yourself so you can kind of release get that reaction or that your body needs. Once you replace it with the android, now you are substituting also the intimacy of the person. And so that is very similar to why most people would be like, I'm okay with you going and masturbating if you need to or whatever, but I wouldn't be cool if you just went and like got a prostitute and banged them, because now you're not just substituting like your own personal sexual release, you are replacing the interaction and the intimacy with a person, like getting it through another person. And I think that's where I'd probably have the bigger issue with that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, what if the android's not? All right, so I guess you're thinking of androids as substitute people, and so how about robot that's definitely not alive? It is just trained.
So I guess, for example,
that's a human form.
Right. So that also kind of takes me, I guess, like the example I was going to give is like a sex doll, right? I mean, there's like that's a big market now of like a sex doll.
How about blow up doll?
See, like that's more just like I guess it's weirder to me just because it feels like,
but it's not actually like human.
It feels weird in that I'd be like, oh, that's just like a bummer that you have to do that. Like that's that's the thing that somebody would have to do. But I guess I wouldn't be like I wouldn't be upset about it. I mean, I guess I'd more just be like, now again,
you start questioning shit. You
yeah,
start to question the underpinnings of
well,
like,
again, yeah, it gets back to my concept of like of a blow up doll or a sex doll for anyone in general. I guess is kind of a thing that I'd be like, oh, it's just a bummer that like you can't just either like find somebody, or if you're alone, like figure out another opportunity. But if that's your only opportunity, go for it. Now, if the question again is back to like my wife using one of those, or like your wife using one of those, then again, I would probably get to the point.
Relationship who then
right
is like, oh, well, you're not available today, so I'm just gonna use this doll.
Yeah, that I guess I would be a little bit more like, hey, we probably should have conversations about the relationship, because there's obviously a need there that you have that the other, like that one person has that the other person is not fulfilling, and they're going to an extreme to try as best they can to replace it with a stand-in that is not just their own hand. And that's where it starts to become more of an issue. But I wouldn't have like the jealousy. I wouldn't be like, oh God, wait, what are you doing? Like a jealousy of being replaced. I'd more be like, what am I doing wrong that you're, that like this doll is a thing that you feel, or I guess even in the case where you said it's like 100% just like it just lays there as a robot and says like, does this feel good? Does this feel good? Like that kind of thing. I'd be like, I'm fucking something up, or you're fucking something up that I feel the need to pursue this thing or whatever. Same situation, I guess. That's kind of how I feel on that. How about with you?
I think I'm where you are, but I do think there's going to be a segment of the population that's going to argue, I don't really give a fuck. It's not a human being, and whatever gets the box off, if that's what they're into. It's all. I'm going to say, like, if you really want to rationalize it, there's a lot of men who cheat on their wives, probably a lot of women that cheat on their husbands as well, who would probably argue that it's not necessarily a failure of their spouse. It's just they're just not built to want the same person every single day for the rest of their life.
Of course.
And then taking on something like this where it's like being in a sexual relationship with another human being, but then you don't actually have to have a real relationship with them.
Of course.
Like afterwards, you just kick. It's like a prostitute. You just kick them out of the room, and
I think
all right, get out of here.
That's probably okay overall. My thought would be really what it comes down to is the idea of that's like being a swinger, but as long as both parties are down with that,
right?
Totally cool. I think the issue becomes as long as both people are okay with the understanding, and that is what you're doing. It is not to replace the other person. It is to substitute a need that you have that they just fundamentally cannot fulfill, and they're okay with you going elsewhere for it. I think that's totally fine. Like I wouldn't have a problem with that, or judge somebody else who has a problem with that. On its surface, as long as both people are. I think it comes down to the issue is like when one is intentionally like hiding that information from the other person, and the other person is not aware or thinks that they are doing what they need to do to keep that person happy, and then this person is kind of on the sly doing this thing. At that point, I guess it really is like probably anything above like a blow up doll or whatever is probably now like you're intentionally being like like
deceptive.
You're being deceptive, and that in and of itself is a problem regardless of the act that you're taking, because of the fact that it's a deception that you're intentionally like perpetrating on your partner, and that they'd be upset by it. So it's like I think that part sucks. Whereas I don't necessarily think like anything in the early
if your wife's not into this kind of stuff, but you're ever going to convince her to get into a threesome with you, this is the best shot you have.
Oh, of course.
It's the android female.
I mean, so honestly, if you could integrate this in on a way that would be probably healthy, would probably be to integrate it into a committed and like sexually active relationship, where you were integrating it as like a third party that was able to fulfill scenarios that maybe the other person wouldn't be normally comfortable with, or bring a third person in that most people typically aren't comfortable with, or whatever. It would allow you to do that. Again, it would probably have to be like where you have probably two of them, right? So that like the other person can also have their option to so like I think it would be like shitty of me as a guy to say, oh, it'd be great if like couples could integrate a female in, because like women are cool with like a threesome as long as it's a woman, and obviously guys love that, so that's great. Like that would be shitty to just assume that should be the way it should be done. So you would probably have to assume that the woman should also have the opportunity of bringing like a male android in and be able to do like, you know, things that, you know, she, you know, to experiment in ways that she wouldn't be able to do. Now with that. Well, see, but I knew you were going to say that, and that's kind of why I introduced that idea, is because you would say no to that, and I kind of know. And I'm not saying I would say yes to it either.
Even the like, I don't give a fuck if it's not human or not. Like the whole anatomical appearance and just whatever goes with that would just be a boner killer for me. No way.
Well, no. But again, I'm not saying that you would have to be involved in doing like threesomes with this android thing. I'm saying, if you are going to introduce the idea that you'd be allowed to have a female android in the house that you could introduce into your sexual relationship, you'd have to, by nature, unless you're being a scumbag, you'd have to also be okay with her saying, cool, then I'm going to have this male one, right? Like, it doesn't mean I'm going to force anything on you that you don't want to do, because the whole point of like the way I'm presenting it right now is saying introducing it into a healthy relationship is saying it's allowing us to try things that we are both comfortable with, that we wouldn't want to do. We wouldn't want to bring a third person in, because we all have seen enough, you know, Chasing Amy type movies where that shit goes wrong, and then one person gets feelings that they shouldn't, or one person, you know, overthinks the situation and thinks, did that person do it better than me, and that whatever. So like, you're not going to bring a third person in, but you're bringing an android in, and that allows you to try things that maybe you wouldn't want to do. And some of that stuff might be let her try shit with the male android when you're not even a part of. Like, it's just like things that, you know. Well, of course, and most people wouldn't, right? And so most people, or not most people, a lot of people, and I would say probably most, I think it probably would lean more heavily towards guys would not be comfortable with it, because we are so inherently built to feel like the alpha male, like I'm more than enough. Like, what would you need? Like, you know, what would you need a guy, like an android guy, to do things that I'm not willing to do? Like, you know, what the fuck? Like, there's something wrong with you that I'm not enough, and why are you being such a bitch about it?
I don't even go that deep into it. I just don't like it.
Would you just the concept? You mean?
Yeah, I just don't like it.
So would you want to introduce a female one though?
I don't know. Yeah, I'd be down with it, I guess.
Well, see, but then that's my point. How can you be down with that and not down with the other?
Because I like one and I don't like the other.
Well, no. Yes, I'm saying, how could you be down with the concept of allowing one and not allowing the other?
Well, so if it becomes like, okay, you can only have this one if you allow the other one, then I'd say no to the whole thing. But if it was just like, let's do this one, then I'm cool with that. For instance, I was in a relationship a while back where the person I was in the relationship with was like kind of into girls as well. Like she was like curious or whatever, right? Yeah. So we talked about the the possibility of bringing a girl in, right? And but the option of so at some point down the line, it was just having a philosophical conversation one day. She was just like, why would you be cool with bringing the girl in, but you're not cool with bringing a guy in or whatever? And I was like, well, because you're kind of into girls too, so then we both win if we bring another girl in, right? But I'm not into dudes, so you bring a dude in, you're winning on that one, and yes. I'm not taking that L. So fuck that.
No, but that's a good point. And so, but that again gets back to my point of if the intention was not to introduce the guy into a mix that involved you as well, then if her intention is just then, if the things that we do with the female are going to be beneficial to both of us, and the thing that's going to be done with the male are like, you're not into it, so it's just going to be things that I might do by myself, and then there's things with the female that you might just do by yourself, like, then she wouldn't be forcing on you to be like, well, then you also have to have a threesome with a male android. Then it's really not harming you. It's not hurting you at all, because you're going into it knowing we're only going to do things that both of us are comfortable with. And right. If the thing that I'm comfortable with is allowing you to do some shit.
And now, I'll take my marriage out of it, because obviously, like, that kind of shit can really fuck your relationship up long term. So me going back to single times, I think I'm down with a relationship even where like she can have intimate relationships with other women on her, and I'm not talking about my wife, obviously. I'm talking about like whoever I'm dealing with, right? Yes. Would be, you can have relationships with other women on your own, and then I can have sexual relationships with other women on my own, then that's fine. But you just can't go fuck another dude. I'm cool with that. But yeah, I don't want no other dude.
What is the reasoning behind it? Is that just again because you want to be the only guy?
Yeah.
But see, so I guess I don't see there's a problem with that. I guess my bigger concern or question, not concern.
It's gross to me.
My bigger question is, why would you be okay with you being able to have relations with other women, but not say that? Obviously, if I'm going to say that, then I also, because like to me, there's no difference than saying
because she
like
gets to go have relations with other women too.
Yeah, but that's not. But that's just not as good to her.
The introduction. No, I mean, what? No, why? I mean, if that's what she wants.
But that would be the same thing as her saying, "I'm going to have relationships with other guys." But don't worry, it's the same because you can also have relationships with other guys.
Well, then no, but then I would say I don't enjoy relationships with her because I wouldn't want that. So I get nothing out of that. But she's already said that.
No, but she's saying no, you don't have to do it. She's just saying you don't have to do it. I'm just saying you're allowed to if you want to, because I want to go have relationships with other guys too. If you get to do the thing you really want to do, and I just get to do the thing that I'm kind of a little bit curious about, but not the thing I'm obviously clearly into because I am like dating a guy, so I'm into that. Like she's saying, if we're going to split the difference and go,
the hairs like that, where it's just like, oh, I just kind of like marginally like it. Let's say she likes it the same, guys and girls.
Oh well, you said that it was more that she was curious. Well, so I'm going off the argument.
Right, but let's just stick with the easier hypothetical, like just the play.
Well, then I think that's of course that would be a win for everyone. If she's like 5 minutes from now, I might break up with you and start like dating women because I'm 100% fully like bi and comfortable with that, then yeah, I don't think it would be even an issue because that would actually be the ideal situation for you as the guy because you get to win and not have to give up anything you wouldn't want to do. So that's what I'm saying. That's the easier question, but it probably isn't the more like realistic or like, the real
it comes down to it. Like
the more realistic thing is that women are more comfortable just in general with the idea of other women than guys are ever with the idea of other guys. So women are always the ones that are giving that up because they are, or they're like ceding that to us because they're like, I'm not disgusted. I mean, most, and not everyone, but like a lot of women would be like, I'm not disgusted by women in the same way that like you shitty, closed-minded asshole guys are disgusted by other men. So like I'm willing to
closed-minded to be disgusted by other men. I don't think that's shitty or closed-minded. It's not something I like.
No, but
it's gross.
Again, like women who aren't into necessarily women are not disgusted by like even lesbian porn. They're not into them. They would never even consider hooking up with them, but they would watch it because they're able to view and say, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
No. I know very soon they're not into that kind of stuff. So lesbian porn, they'll be like, they'll wrinkle their nose and go, ew. And then it's like,
of course, you know plenty of them. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's just like it's like an established fact that women will watch lesbian porn. Like the Google data will show that women will watch lesbian porn on a vastly higher degree because
they're more comfortable and they're more likely. If a woman is cool with watching lesbian porn, on some level there's some curiousness about it for her. Otherwise, you're wrinkling your nose at it the same way I would wrinkle my nose.
No, that's definitely not true. We know for a fact that's not, because women can also like women can be like even like from a purely friend standpoint can like change in front of each other all the time and be like, oh, you have a beautiful body and not be attracted to them whatsoever. Guys are like not like that. Guys are not.
That's just only because of the stigma of not wanting to be labeled gay or whatever. But like, if you've never like, I mean, I don't, like in terms of like lifting and shit like that. Like in the gym, I'd be like, damn, your shoulders looking big as fuck. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's a compliment.
But that's very different that's very different than saying than a woman being able to acknowledge that like a woman's body is beautiful, like. From not just from a like, wow, your traps are getting larger, so therefore I'm complimenting you on a physical fact.
Each other like, looking ripped, bro. Like that new workout shit you've been doing is working.
I know, but
I mean, and that's
I guess the point that I'm making.
The point that I'm making is one is a man.
No, but a man is making a clinical like breakdown of saying you have gotten stronger, and therefore I'm telling you that you have gotten stronger by saying you're looking strong, sir. I'm just using normal words to say that, but no guy is ever like, damn, you look really good today. Like, or not no guy, but guys don't typically feel comfortable saying like, oh shit, you look really good, like your ass looks good in those jeans, whereas like women will be able to compliment each other on a actual like from a beauty standpoint way more across the board. That's not even like a question.
Yeah, that's just semantics.
Than guys.
Dudes do it because the things about guys' bodies that are like guys' bodies aren't typically seen in, like, women don't normally look at a guy's body and go, oh, your body's beautiful. You know, your butt looks good in those jeans. Like, they just, I mean, they do say stuff like that. Well, that's not necessarily
true.
Like,
they do say that a lot. But
I mean, they do say that, but it's like the way a man's body is viewed is the things that are treasured by both sexes about a man's body are its strength, like chiseledness, how cut it is, how big you look, like those kind of things. And that's why it's like they're both complementing each other. It's just they're done in different ways because both sexes value different things.
I mean, I would say it is. I think it is very much like it's an established thing that women are way more comfortable with their sexuality and with their ability to acknowledge that the other female bodies are legit beautiful, and like beautiful, not in the way where they're like, you are checking the box of being like stronger, or you have a bigger this or that or whatever. Whereas guys, it's a much more clinical thing where you're like, I'm not complimenting you on the beauty of your body. I might just be saying, oh shit, your arms got jacked, dude. Like, what happened? Like, what have you been doing to work out? Because you got huge. Like, you're never commenting on the actual like physical attractiveness or beauty, whereas women can be saying, this is not like, I'm not trying to hook up with you, but you look legit beautiful. They're way more comfortable doing that, even though guys plenty of times will be like, I can straight up acknowledge that guy is a very good looking man, but guys will not normally feel comfortable saying, or even a lot of guys won't feel comfortable even thinking that, because it's like it gets too close towards, oh shit, what does this mean about myself? So it's like, so that's a separate thing. Whatever, we could talk about that. I guess more my issue was the question of it's thinking that you can do this but she can't, is more like, in my head it's like, yo, we're gonna get like a BMW, but only I'm allowed to drive it. You're not. Like, it's like, if you're gonna be like, yo, this is what we're doing, then like I have to be. What'd you say?
What'd you say? You're taking that equality. You're taking about that whole wanting to be like equal. Like, they're taking that equality shit way too far, in my opinion, from my personal taste.
Isn't equality just literally that by definition has to be equal?
Yeah, I'm not buying into it for purposes of the kind, like, where, oh well, if you're going to be cool with, we can both date other women, then I have to have full access and be able to date other men too. Like, that's no.
Wait. I guess I missed that part. You're saying, if on the dating standpoint, you're saying if she's allowing you to date other women, then you do not agree that you should have to allow her to date other men.
Right. It just goes to each person needs to make the decisions they want to make that they're comfortable with in a relationship. And you like this whole like, oh, well, then there needs to be fairness. That's the shit that rules. Shit can't be tit for tat. And if you do have a situation where, like, the woman you're dating is cool with, like, they like both girls and guys, and then they're like, they express to you that they want to be able to experiment with girls and even on the side, and then they're cool with you experimenting with girls, I don't think it's, oh, well, now my duty to society is that now I have to tell her, hey, if you want to go ahead and date other guys, you can do that too.
Right. But I don't think it's a duty to society. It would more just be it would be your duty to be fair to your spouse.
Because fair to me is she wants to do something and has offered, like, hey, I'm comfortable with this and you're comfortable with that, and let's go with what we're comfortable with. But when you start measuring, like, oh, well, how much are you getting versus how much what I'm getting, and like that's where relationships going wrong anyway. I mean, that's even true with money situations, or like when you're measuring, like, exactly like how we're doing, like, the more you get into, like, oh, well, it has to be an equal benefit or tit for tat, like, just focus on what makes you happy, what makes them happy, what are you okay with, what are they okay with.
Well, you wouldn't know if they were happy or not, but until you open up that conversation, right? Because there are plenty of people there are plenty of people that would just offer something and then hope that you are going to be the bigger person and offer back, right?
No, that's a shitty way to do that with a relationship.
Well,
you have to be upfront and communicate. And that's
okay. So
like,
let me say,
not okay with something,
separate from a like a menage a trois or anything like that. If your significant other or wife or whatever was to say to you, like, I'm cool with an open relationship, you're allowed to.
Let's take marriage out of it, because again, I would. marriage is a whole different
Well, separate all that stuff. I'm just talking about specifically like the concept of you're with somebody in a committed relationship, whether that is a marriage or not. It doesn't matter. Separate out the long-term effects. I'm just talking about the actual opening.
Well, I'm not saying. So I'm going back to me when I was like in the dating world. I'm not speaking on my family now. Like,
that's what I'm saying. We're not talking about specific individual people. Like even before we were asking about like if your wife wants to do this or your wife. We're not talking about your current wife, my wife, whatever. We're just talking about you as a hypothetical you and her as the hypothetical wife or girlfriend or whatever, right? So be clear about that because we're not referring to anything about our relationships as they currently stand because that'll be too hard to answer anyway because you're like gonna whatever. No one's
There's
gonna
too many
say
specifics
that make those questions almost impossible to answer. So we're just saying,
like, imagine they wouldn't be generally applicable answers. They would be applicable to this particular relationship. So.
Right, and that doesn't help anybody listening anyway. So we're just saying you're in a relationship, whether that is marriage or long-term committed relationship. But the point being, this is not just somebody you've been banging for a week or two. This is like a long-term relationship, and that person says to you, like, you are allowed to like hook up with or have sex, whatever, with other women. Like it won't bother me if you do that. Would your response be like, okay, cool, thank you?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you then offer you'd be cool, like it's cool for you to then also, if you want to, hook up with other guys too?
No.
Okay. So you would just accept that, but not offer in kind.
That's right.
And you wouldn't.
If I really cared about her, like if I cared about her, I might say,
you are in a long-term relationship. So the point is, you are
right. So I'd probably like now, at this stage, like knowing what I know.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. You now, not like you 20 years ago.
If you're okay with me doing that, like then that's fine. But I'm not going to be okay with you doing that. So does that change your stance?
Okay, so you would at least say that. I guess that's more what I was trying to get at, is that you wouldn't just be like, awesome, cool, thanks, honey, high five, and then I'm going to go bang this broad. Like, you would at least be able to say, like, let's just be certainly clear about this, that I would not be cool with you going to do it. So, now, again, I guess the bigger problem with that is you've already tipped your hand by saying that you're like, I definitely want to do what you just offered for me, but I'm definitely not cool with letting you do it. So I'm waiting for you to say that you're cool.
That's fine to tip my hand that way because different things in relationships are important to different people. So she just might not really give a fuck about that, right? And we know that like women value things differently than men value sometimes in some aspects, so for her that just might not be a really big deal.
Right.
For me it is. And then again, if then she responded like, well, what about girls? Then I'd be like, well, fine, then go ahead on that because that's not a big deal to me.
Right.
I don't really care.
I guess my next question would be, because we're now kind of parsing out or unpacking all the things you said. I know one of your big initial issues when I talked about like introducing, one of each gender to the relationship, and you were like, no, I wouldn't do that. And then you used the example of your, the old, the back in the day, the girl, whatever, that was open to it, and you were like, well, because I'm not into guys, so I wouldn't be cool with that, but I am cool, like I am into girls, and so is she, so that would make sense for me. So
right, because then we both win.
Right. Well, and I agree with you on that part. So now step away from that, and now think of, like I said, this is not introducing them in as a third party to where you are now obligated to be involved in these sexual acts. If this is just on the side.
No, I don't want her going off and doing that on the side. That's gross to me. Like,
it's not going off on the side. It's because it would be open. I mean, it would be open.
But I'm saying I wouldn't want her doing that. Like, no, I just don't want another penis involved in the relationship.
Even if the thing is just an android.
The android thing would have to be how realistic. Like, it's just.
I mean, it's Connor. It's Connor, nerdy ass Connor, but he's banging.
Then I mean, again, are we talking about now? Are these androids like in Detroit where they're actually alive?
Let's say it's, as far as the world is concerned, they are up until the moment that they are alive. Let's say it's the week before they go deviant, right? So the assumption is that when you buy it, you don't know about this deviancy thing. So yes,
so to me they're not alive.
As far as you know, yeah. The thing is they're created to be essentially a sex
I don't know. I wouldn't be happy about it. Like, I wouldn't be encouraging it, but if I'd consider it. It's not alive. I just don't like the and it's how I don't know. It's just the part itself is like something like it's like somebody's been eating my porridge.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
so you
that
would
type
be...
of like something.
So this is more the alpha male thing of like you just want to be the only
it's
one.
gross. It's gross. It's like the dude is the one. Like no, the dude's the one like doing the penetrating, and I don't want.
You want to be the only one.
Yeah.
Even though you would be totally fine with doing the penetrating to other, like to an android of your own.
Yeah, because like I come home and there's nothing altered about me.
Wait, what?
If that makes sense. There's nothing altered around
I get it.
about my
you
part.
come home.
You know what I mean?
But what is altered about her? What's altered about her? Nothing. Like,
it's been affected.
What?
It's been affected by the.
No different. Like from a medical and like physiological standpoint.
That's not true.
Nothing different any more than what's changed about you having had intercourse with with another android or whatever. Like there's no difference to her. I mean, unless you're getting into like you made one that has like a fucking tree trunk for a penis and it's like tearing things up. Like then yes, that could be an issue. But like that, other than that, let's assume that everything is going to be fine and that's not going to be a problem. Nothing different has happened to her.
Still, I'm not comfortable with it. I don't like it.
So it's more just you just don't want her to be able to go somewhere else, but you are cool with you going somewhere else.
No, because she can go somewhere else with a girl, but I'm not cool with her being penetrated by somebody else.
So you're really just fixated on the penetration part as being this thing that really just bothers you. If it was, I don't
like another penis involved. I don't like another penis involved.
Even if you don't have to be involved in it. Even if it's just like, yo, I'm traveling. Even if you're like, I'm traveling for a week, and she's like, perfect, I'm gonna break out Connor, and take care of some shit while he's gone.
Nope, don't like it.
Man. All right, let's take out the penetration part and let's just say she just busts out Connor and Connor just like does everything else. Handles all the other things that can be done.
Do more women to consider that? I really don't like it.
Now you can't be upset and say it's because of the penetration anymore because I'm telling you that is a prime directive built in that it will not do that. It's just going to provide all of the other potential sexual services that could be.
I'd be more comfortable with that, but again, I'm not crazy about the idea of. But yeah, I'd be more comfortable with that. But it's like. Do
you think it's the jealousy? Just like coming home and knowing. Well, just coming home.
Jealous person, but.
Well, yeah, but jealousy in normal standpoints is like, oh, if it's like my girlfriend is talking to a guy at work, I don't freak out and be like, why are you trying to fuck him? Like that's the way we normally process when we say, well, I'm not a jealous person. Versus the actual jealousy of like, I came home and I know for a fact you banged that android. It's not jealousy because I know you, or it's not perceived jealousy of you doing something that I didn't want you to do. It's the fact that I know you did it, so that would be a totally different level of jealousy, right? It's you saying I allowed you to do it, and now I'm jealous about the fact that I allowed you to do it with somebody else that wasn't me.
I just don't
because
like
I
it.
want to be the only one.
I don't know. It was like sometimes some things to be are not worth. I think my brain in some scale. I think human brain sometimes arrives at conclusions like your intuition can do the math without you consciously doing it. And I just don't like it. And I'm probably better at saying something about it rubs me the wrong way and I don't like it than I am at giving you concrete reasons for me explaining why I don't like it. Well, if the bottom line is it doesn't make me feel comfortable and I don't like it, then that's a good enough reason for me to say I'm not comfortable with that and I don't like it. Now, if she's saying to me, you can go off and do that with a girl and I can go off and do that with a girl, and we're both like in the end, hey, that doesn't bother me, then that's a win. That's a win-win.
Yes.
Right. But if one of us is not comfortable and one of us is, then don't do it. Right. That's just
that's
what I've learned in life.
And so I think the bigger issue too is that.
And then when you start trying to inject this equity, this like superficial beyond what one person is comfortable with, and another person is comfortable with. Wait! You guys have an arrangement where what? That's not fair. She's getting fucked over. Then that introduces. Right. That introduces, right. But you're introducing things then that don't need to be part of the equation. And I think that's true with relationships, not just in this scenario that we're cooking up, but in everything. Like I said, money, in who takes care, like who does like what chores, or distribution of whatever. Like in a relationship, when you come down to beyond I'm comfortable with this, I'm not comfortable with this, and you start injecting like issues of like, hey, we have a good thing going, and I'm cool with it, and he seems cool with it. But now I'm starting to listen to my friends about like, oh, he's getting away with what? Like, then
right. But you're also you're adding okay, but you're also you are leading the witness a bit by telling the story as if like, oh, and then she starts talking to her shitty friends and they start telling her you're letting them get away with, like you're telling the story in such a way where it's like she's just being like convinced by her friends that like your fucking asshole boyfriend or husband or whatever, you need to go tell him a thing or two, and like that's not the way that that's not the way that I am describing that it would take place. So like you're trying to.
Well, then how do you get from a place where both of them are, both of us are comfortable, and then how do you get to the place of, all right, then what else is there to talk about?
So there's a situation. There are plenty of situations where like the one party, and more often than not, like it is, women are usually more, just like as like. The on a genetic level or whatever the fuck it is, right? When we break down the like men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? Like women are typically much more giving and like emotionally open to to their partner than guys just are in general. And a lot of that's just the hunter versus gatherer and all that kind of stuff, right? So you could have a woman in this case who is fully 100%.
I'm not sure I'm ready to accept that premise, but
well, no, I mean that's just biological, like that we know for a fact that you're the female, like the female, like on a genetic level, the female of our species specifically, but in a lot of different species, are way more like emotionally open, and like they are more like comfortable with the idea of making those around them happy, as opposed to guys. Like that's the idea of the hunter versus gatherer, is like I am part of I hold the unit together, and the guy is the one that goes out and like I do the thing that I need to do to make sure that I provide. Like I go and hunt, and then I let you take care of the like keeping the family together. I go and do this. Like I worry about making me be happy in my status, and then women are much more comfortable with the kind of like like emotionally open to the you want to say the universe, but you know what I mean, like the idea of being open and connected, whereas like the male kind of mentality is much more. That's why it's like the alpha male, right? You don't say like the alpha female unless you're usually playing. It's a play off of the idea. It's a play off of the idea of the concept of alpha male, right? Because the alpha is always the alpha dog is the male that is running the fucking pack. It's like that's what it is, right? So that's where we are.
With some animals, there is an alpha female. There's species where there's.
Of course, Ron, but I'm talking about.
Alpha's a more operative term.
I mean, if you're really going to make that argument, and you're saying that in general it is 50-50 on whether or not the term alpha could be used for male or female, then we can't really have the conversation, because
no, I mean just the origin of you're saying, oh, well, that's where we got the alpha male term. No, really, I mean, if there wasn't like if it didn't need to be clarified,
it's always the exception.
Alpha, like it was always the male. I mean,
it's always the exception. If it's a female, it's always the exception. We always like there's a reason why like matriarchal setup of any type of animal is always an exception, not a rule, because everything trends towards. I mean, literally, we have testosterone that creates the image of protection and power and rising to the like the protector of the clan and all that kind of stuff. Like, is because of our genetic makeup, and the female is typically always in almost every single case going to be the one that is much more about the the one that stays back and kind of protects the family, and like the built-in relationship of mother to family, and or female to family and male to family is just the dynamic is different. So like if you want to have that argument, then like we probably just shouldn't have the conversation, because it's just that's like a fundamental building block of
most. It feels weird to have this like the recitation of supposed genetic predispositions by both genders proceed and be used as a basis for the follow-up argument that there should be equality between the genders that ignores
no. What I was going to say, all I was saying is that in general, you have a situation where female, like the female may be like a woman in a relationship may be in all ways actually allowing you, like serious jest, to engage in this kind of side relationship with a fucking android or a person or whatever, specifically because she is like, I am doing it because I know it will make him happy and that will make me happy, so therefore I'm okay with it. Like I don't necessarily have to do it, Like, I don't like the idea that he's doing it per se, or not that I don't like the idea. It doesn't bring me pleasure that he does it. It brings me pleasure that it brings him pleasure that he does it. So I'm okay with it. And it is way more normal for a guy to be like, no, I'm just not going to do it, or I'm not going to let her do it because it will not bring me pleasure. And so therefore it is not worthwhile to allow her to do it, because then it makes me uncomfortable. And like, your whole argument was predicated on, well, if it doesn't make me happy, then why am I going to let her do it? Because then we're putting ourselves in a position where I'm allowing her to do something that's not making me happy.
It makes me unhappy. So it's just a deal breaker.
Of course,
for me.
whereas, and then that's the breakdown between
me.
men and women, is that women in many ways are, of the two genders, far more often than not, the one that are willing to give of themselves.
They're going to place less value on that? I think they're going to place less value on that. I think that
because they're happy that you're happy.
Yeah, but who cares? I mean, you're splitting hairs there. Like, the bottom line is, when they make their observation about it, when they do the gut check and go, would it bother me if he was out there doing that? Well, ultimately most women would say, yeah, that would bother me. But there are women that'll say, no, it won't. No, I don't really care that much, right? And if that's the reaction, I don't really care that much, it's not really that important to me, versus the male going like, no, fuck that. I would
no, but it's not that I don't care that much.
You know what I mean?
It's that I care enough to do a thing that is not pleasurable or beneficial to me because it is beneficial to him. Like, why? That's why males do, like men in most relationships drive a lot of the like sexual activity in terms of doing things that they want to do, and women are willing to do things that maybe are like, hey, I do it because it keeps him happy. Like, it's not, they're not driving the activity. They're like, I'm gonna do this thing because it is like, he really wants to do it, and he's down.
I think of a lot of things that like where shit's important to my wife, and I'm like, I don't really like it, but go ahead, we can do that, I guess. You know what I mean? But
well, is it like,
it
do we go to fucking Applebee's or like go to a place that's good? Like, yeah, of course. I mean, that's I don't think that's like a fucking thing to that's not a line you would draw in the sand. It's like, check me out, what a husband of the year, because I'm willing to fucking let her choose, like, the restaurant or the fucking color of the
anything
sheets.
From like where you it could be major things like where you spend your money, what's important, life plans, like decisions where you could, like family decisions where you could be like, well, she really wants to do the family to do this, and I really don't care that much, so fine, we'll do it her way. Yeah,
okay, so like, life plans though seem like that seems like a way bigger thing then. That seems like a way bigger thing. If it's a planning of your actual life and the direction of your life and where it's going to move, you're okay with that, and not a thing that is just like, I'm just going to bang this android, which literally is like inconsequential, other than the fact that you're just like worried about the fact that it's going to make you feel like less of a man that she had to go somewhere else to do it.
Less of a man. I'm not going. You're trying to like go into psychological underpinnings or something. Again, for me, when it comes to relationships, just what are you comfortable with? What's the other person comfortable with? All this other shit, this analysis of what's fair and what's, it's silly to me. That doesn't belong necessarily in relationships except for extreme circumstances.
I think fairness has to be incorporated in your relationship, right?
Well, fairness, fairness is not to do something to somebody else that's going to make them unhappy.
Okay,
and if it's not making her unhappy, then.
But like where you go to dinner, like as the example I just gave, if you were the one that chose every single time and she was just way cooler than you and just was like, I mean, I'd really like to go to that like new sushi place that opened, but like he really always wants to go to fucking, I don't know, insert the name of the fucking place.
That's a discussion my wife and I constantly have. Like, she loves going to different restaurants and exploring different kinds of food and shit like that. And to me, it's really not that important. I really don't give a fuck that much.
But you
like,
do let her do it.
Day, there have been times when, like, I'd be like, I'm kind of not in the mood for that. I'd rather have this. But then, and then she's like really hyped up on having a kind of food that I'm not like in the mood for, right? And I'm like, well, fuck, she seems really amped up about that, and I really kind of don't give a fuck,
Right. So that's being fair.
Just let her
that's
have
the point.
All the time.
All
right, if that's how you define fairness, then we're still on the same page. But like, if I was to inject these outside, notions of fairness that really have no place in, I'd go, that's not fair. She always chooses. And the one time that I actually felt like having a different, kind of thing, even though I didn't give a fuck that much, she should have just ceded it to me because I actually gave a fuck a little bit. And that's where we get into that's the kind of shit that breaks the relationship. It starts causing rifts in relationships where people are just starting fights just to start them about shit that doesn't really bother them, just because they get in their head that they're being taken advantage of.
Well, I mean, yeah. So
put your foot down about the things that matter to you, not about shit that you feel like should matter to you.
You could make the argument though that even if this argument per se does not matter to me, the outcome of the specific argument, but the idea that I feel like I'm being taken advantage of could be the important thing that you feel like you need to put your foot down on. I think that in and of itself is important. In that case,
yes, if it's part of a greater thing, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So you can't separate those things and make it seem like, if you don't care, just fucking let it go and then never argue about a thing. Because there are plenty of times where somebody's like, it's just the fact that you just assume that you should always be able to choose X or make decision Y just because inherently means that I'm being taken advantage of. So now I'm going to say, hey, why don't you ever just once ask me?
If that's your only basis, then what are you complaining about? On some fucking I feel like you always just assume, like, I don't know, you're just complaining to complain at that point. Like, I'm not going to complain about that. You know what I mean? Like, then what I'll do is the next time, if I really want to eat at a place and like, no, you know what? Today I don't want to have Thai food. I want to have Italian food.
But again, but I wasn't giving the example where I'm saying it is just like the one person being like, hey, where do you want to go to dinner? Because there's this really awesome place that I heard about. And you're like, I don't care. And she's like, okay, cool. Then we'll go to that place that I'm really excited about. I'm talking about, like I said, a circumstance where you feel like you're being taken advantage of, where it's like the other person comes home every day and is like, so of course I made reservations at this place again that I love because I'm always going to make the decision. I don't even ask you. And so a person could be like, I actually don't necessarily care. But it's more the fact, like, I don't care where we go. It's more the fact that you don't even think to ask or include me in the discussion, and that in and of itself is unfair because you have now relegated to the point where you are just expected to go along with the ride because this person just wants to fucking make all the decisions. And that sucks.
I hate arguments like that. No, I hate arguments like that. Then the person's complaining about that potential problem in a vacuum that doesn't exist and has no practical implications, just being shitty to me. That person's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why? Like, if shit's good in your relationship, why are you creating problems? No, I feel like you don't. It's not that you never console me about where we go. Oh, you want to go somewhere different? Well, no, but it bothers me that you didn't ask. Like, come on. Just fucking be happy. Like, that's the thing. People nowadays, this is what's wrong with relationships. Too many people are just fighting shit to fight about because they don't have anything to fight about. You know, and I've been in a relationship where there's so much shit to fight about that, like.
The underlying issue is that one person feels like they're being taken advantage of.
No. See, I was more on board when I thought it was part of a greater issue. Like, there's another thing that you get taken advantage of on. There's like 3 other things that you kind of do care about, and your fucking voice of reason gets skipped. And then this shit happens, and it's just the straw that broke the camel's back. And it's not really about this. It's about the greater thing that there is a pattern here where your fucking wants or desires or happiness.
No, that's my entire point. I'm saying that the person just assumes their decision will always be the one that counts. So you say, maybe I don't necessarily care about whether or not we go get hot dogs or go for sushi, but I'm more just annoyed that you just assume that you're going to make the decision every time. That would be a thing that somebody would get pissed about and be like, it's just a bummer that you assume that your decision
unless
goes.
You could trace it back to another thing where you were actually affected, I don't give a fuck about it. That's what I'm saying. It's like, wow. You know what I mean? Like, then you're just arguing hypotheticals, and that's not good for your relationship.
I know. How is that hypothetical? I'm saying that is actually a legit. I'm saying.
No, but like, who cares? Who cares if they're making the, like, you're right, Craig. I decided that I do take you for granted on deciding that I'm going to pick where we're going to eat because you normally don't give a fuck. So this makes me happy, and I just do it, right? No, well, next time you have to go through the motion of, like, come on. Like, do you really have a problem with it? If you don't have a problem with it, don't even bring it up.
I
there's some things you just like, they're not worth it.
Isn't that relationships that you are supposed to?
It's not healthy relationships.
Wow.
No, it's not healthy relationships.
So you just think if I care more than you, I should just steamroll you every single time?
No, it's not steamroll. Look, if you don't give a fuck, like, if you care, but you, like, just don't, like, if you care, but the other person just cares a little bit, you let them get it every once in a while, and now it's bothering you that, like, you don't get to pick wherever, because you don't get to pick where you're going to eat because it really bothers you that you would like to sometimes get to pick it. You can say, I'd be willing to give it up the majority of the time.
You don't think that there's a way that somebody would feel disrespected by the fact that they're like, I'm more just bummed out that you don't even seem to give a fuck what I care about or not.
Not unless you're linking it to a greater pattern of behavior in another part of the relationship that actually bothers you.
Yeah, see, because I can clearly say that, like, I can see how a person would be bothered by the fact that the other person just doesn't even show an inclination to care about the other person's point of view, regardless, and therefore
that's making
assumes
up problems in the abstract to me.
No, that's certainly not abstract. I'm saying definitively. I'm saying the actual issue is that the other person does not even seem to care about what the one person doesn't seem to care about what the other person wants to do or what their thoughts are on a situation, and is assuming that because they are the decision maker, they will always therefore be the decision maker. And just the ipso facto like idea of I have done it, so I will continue to always be that person would certainly be a thing where I would assume, actually most people, I would say, most people would get to a point where they're like, I actually just feel like I'm just here to only go along with what makes you happy, because if I interject, it's like I have to care more than you to even have a say. And if it becomes like if I don't care more than 51%, I just have to cede every decision to you, then that makes me feel taken advantage of. So therefore now I don't.
Not even 51%.
Nine times out of 10, that probably happens. Well, no, I'm saying you have to care more. I'm saying you have to care more.
In my scenario that I said, I'm like, I really don't give a fuck. I maybe give a fuck just a little bit. Like I'd prefer one over the other. Like if you put the choice in my hands and I had to pick one, I'd go like this one, right? But or like on one given day I was kind of in the mood for this, but that's not really important to me. Like I really don't give a fuck. Like if I called and one of the restaurants are closed, I'm not gonna like, oh, I was really like, let's go to the other one, right? And it really makes her really happy. That's her thing, to pick dinner, like where we're gonna eat. Like every time, I fucking let her pick this shit every time. I don't give a fuck because it's just not high on my priority list. Yes. Like I don't care.
But again,
now
if this was
if this is on the tail end of like there was another thing that I did care about, but she just steamrolled me on it constantly, then this might straw that broke the camel's back.
Okay. Now again, we're using a purposefully inconsequential argument because it's just easier to talk about. But to go back to an actual real thing, do you think or do you not think that there is...
You're saying a real thing, like there's a difference between, like, you're judging your importance on something and you're interjecting it into it.
No, I'm saying a real thing.
It's like
I'm saying a real thing
for some women...
to go where you go to dinner is functionally across the board an inconsequential argument for all things being equal.
Craig Mack places where you go to dinner on a much less consequential decision as to whether
I'm saying functionally less consequential than anything about whether or not somebody is allowed to have sex with other people. I'm saying that's what I'm saying. You are placing your value system on that. But in our hypothetical from before, the woman really kind of doesn't give a fuck, right? And so you're just and you're placing some kind of duty by the dude to be like, oh well, I know you don't care, but in all fairness, if you're gonna offer me this opportunity, then I should offer you the opportunity to do some shit that I fucking absolutely hate and would fucking really fuck with. Or wouldn't you then no, I guess my whole argument from the very beginning was, then wouldn't you just immediately be like, no honey, I definitely don't want to do that, because in your head you are not willing to offer the same fairness in kind to her.
Yeah, I'd make a value assessment.
Don't be like, hey, yeah, I'm down with it as long as you know that I'll fucking hell no, are you ever allowed to bang dudes? Because of course you've already said to her, I think it's cool for me to be able to do it, but definitely not for you. Like I'm telling you that I'm okay with it, but I will tell you to go fuck yourself if you ask me. So like,
yeah, then I would be like, well, because this is one of those things that I would really enjoy, and you wouldn't give a fuck about. So
But she would really enjoy to have sex with another guy. That's why she would, like, let's assume that she would want to, right?
Then I'd say no for both of us. Then no, I don't know, man. You're getting real into the weeds, and like again, my whole thing is.
I think that's the entire argument.
Doesn't make me comfortable.
Not in the weeds. It's just
doesn't make me comfortable for her to do it. Like I think I said this before though. I'd say like we can war game the logics of like what's fair and what's not fair all day, but in the end, I think the only thing that matters is, am I comfortable with what I'm comfortable with and what she's comfortable with, and that should be the focus of the relationship stuff. And if you're like, no, well, even though she's asserted and I believe her that she's comfortable with it, it doesn't really bother her that much. It's not that big a deal for her, right?
Yes.
Because again, I'd want to make sure those things are true as a partner. I wouldn't want her to just tell me like yeah, I guess I'm cool with it, and then like the first time it happens, now the relationship is all fucked up because I've said that. I've openly said that I don't want that. That's a bad precedent. But if I really am convinced that she's cool, it's not that big a deal for her, right? And she's cool with stuff being the way it is, where she can step out with other chicks and I can step out with other chicks, and we're both cool with that. I don't see a problem with that. No, and I'm not going to go back and go like, well, now from a objectively societal standpoint, are we being fair with each other?
Well, don't say it that way, because again, it's you're adding like a level of like snark to it that is probably not necessary to make the point. But like, I guess the thing I guess from my end is that also, I guess you could say the entire purpose of relationships is that you inherently are willing to do things that maybe are not comfortable or fun or exciting for you because it'll make the other person happy. And so if that is like, oh, you really want to go like I wanted to just sit home and watch football all day, but you really wanted to go shopping, and that's fucking gonna suck for me, but I'm going to do it because I know it'll make you happy, and that will make me happy to know that I did something for you, is just dumbing down the idea of
I'm not doing that conversation because that'll open us up for another hour. But I'd like that kind of shit too. I'd like.
So you don't like that either?
Would be more in the. So I'm gonna stay home and watch football because that makes me happy.
Oh,
and
wow.
You want to
Okay.
go
So
shopping in the store, and you go be happy doing that.
Oh, okay. So I guess I did not know that your entire basis was I won't do anything for you. I won't do anything for you that unless it makes me 100% happy for me to do it. If that's like the stance,
that's not it. That's not what I said. We're talking about on a regular basis, though. Like, I mean, I'm not like, but tell me what like if the whole point is like let's spend time together, I'd be like, why don't we just both do something that we both want to do?
But if I want to go hang out with my friends,
me going to,
she wants to go hang out with her friends and wants you to come with her and hang out, and the guys are also going to be there, and you're like, I don't really like any of those guys. I definitely don't need to be hanging out with you and your friends, but you really want me to be there because you don't just want to go do a girl thing, or you don't want to be the only one that's there with all the other husbands except for me.
That's different. That's different because then there's like an actual real requirement for my presence that would benefit. Like I can't. My presence is what benefits her. Then I could do that a few times, but am I going to be doing that regularly? No, it's not going to make me happy. I'm not going to do that regularly.
All right, that makes sense.
You're laughing at that like, oh, it's not, like to me. I'm laughing at the guy that feels like, oh, I'm going to constantly put myself in these shitty situations.
No, I'm
because
more
my
just. I guess I was more just like I was laughing more at the idea that you were like. The only thing that made that be acceptable to you is once you were able to say, well, my presence is required to make the rest of the event go forward. But if I am not required, I will tell her to go fuck herself and like go do her own thing.
It's like go fuck yourself. But what I'm saying is like I'm
okay. If she just said, I want to go shopping with you, I want to go shopping with you because I just want to go shopping with you. And it's not because of a function.
Let's do something else. Then let's do something else together.
I need you there. No. But she's like, I want to go shopping, and I also want to spend the day with you. So can you come with me shopping so that we can spend the day together and go shopping? And you're like, there's a billion other things I could do. If we're just talking
on a micro level, I would not be cool with that, right?
Wow, you just say no to that.
Because you are right. I would, and I have, and my wife's been cool about that because, like, hey, I'm going to hang out with my friends. I'm going to hang out with one of my friends, and her husband's going to be there, and why don't you come along? And I'm like, I don't feel like spending time with that guy today.
No, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that you can't say no to that. I mean, everyone obviously doesn't say yes 100% of the time. But I'm saying that by its very nature implies you don't only do things that make you happy or force her to do things that give you equal enjoyment and happiness.
Well, the reason I said my presence is required is because she's saying like, okay, like I'm going to a thing where everybody's
coupled
the
husbands
up,
are going to be there.
Of course,
no, I get
then
that.
I'm left out.
And that's why I removed that example because you gave yourself the out.
I want to go shopping and I want to. I want to go shopping, and I want to spend the day with you.
What if she
said,
those are
things that
what if
you
she
want,
said the family? What if she said my family is getting together for like an event, and I want you to come? And you're like, I just don't really feel like hanging out with your family, but I'm going to go because you want me to go. Like, That's like you would not do that.
I like her family. I like her family, so it's kind of a weird.
I'm saying, imagine a situation that's not her. It's like another person where you're like, I mean, it's not going to be fun for me to hang out with your family. And like, but you're going to just tell her, no, I don't want to go hang out with your family, even though like
again,
that's.
No, see, again, those are things where. Those are if you're married, as you know, hanging out with the family is family time. Like, it's things you need to do. You can't have a healthy family relationship.
But that was my entire point from the very beginning, is that there are things that you need to do in a relationship that don't bring you joy. They bring the other person joy, so therefore you do them because by the transitive whatever property, like you get joy by doing things for her.
That's not the same, because when I'm hanging out with her family, I'm not doing it for her. I'm doing it for our family and for myself, because you have to have, if you want to be in a healthy marriage, you have to be able to
hang out with your friends, like whatever. Again, you're so okay. So what it comes down to is, unless you get value from it, because every example I've given, you either say no if you get no value from it, or you give the example of how it brings you value, which is. Like, I have to do this for her because I don't want to leave her hanging, so that's the value I bring. Is my
it's not value for me, and then it is value for her.
Like or family is you're like, oh, I'm not doing it for her. I'm doing it because I want to spend time with her family. So again, the argument comes down to you are willing to do it only if it brings you the joy. If she asks you to do a thing that is 100% only to bring her joy, then you will be like, fuck that, go do it by yourself. I'm going to stay home and hang out with my friends because I only do things that we both feel comfortable with.
It's a situation of hanging out with friends of hers that I don't want to hang out with, but she's got a legitimate, like, she makes it, she presents it to me, and I'm like, when I look at it, I'm like, yeah, if I wasn't there, it would be, I can understand, you need me there. So I will go do that.
Right. So if
I look at it going, I don't need to be there.
You would
I don't
say
need to be there, and I really don't want to. If I don't want to, and I don't need to, then I would say no. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess that's fundamentally where we differ.
I'd really like you to come to the mall with me.
That's what I was trying to get down to. That's what I was trying to get down to. Is that's where we fundamentally differ. Is the idea that, like, I would feel like both parties often do things that do not bring them joy directly because it brings the other person happiness or joy, and so they're like, cool, that's cool. And some people might just do it out of like selfishness, that they're like, cool, if I do this, maybe she'll do something for me later, and that's fine too. That's like a whole other argument. But I'm saying the idea that people do things that, like, hey, for your birthday, you really want to go see a fucking like ballet, brings me literally zero joy. I could just buy you a ticket and say, go have fun seeing the ballet, but I will go.
Different. I want to birthday the whole purpose.
But
that's why I said. So
every time I give an example like that, your never answer is, I do it because it makes her happy. You're like, your answer is, well, no, then it's different because it's her birthday and it's a requirement because it's like I'm required to be there because I am the one giving her the gift, so therefore I have to take her. I'm like,
no, of course I want to make her happy, but what I'm saying is, like, and again, these are restricted to micro, right? Because on a macro level, right, if I'm like doing things just for her and then she's doing things just for me on another level, like, there's give and take, right? But in those situations where that you've been talking about, where she's like, oh, I want to go to the mall and I want to spend the day with you, or like, I want to go shopping at women's shoe stores and I want to go, and I want you to be there, and I'm like, I fucking hate that, like the thought of doing that all day, like, makes me want to throw up in my mouth, right? But she really wants me to go, just because she really wants me to go. So, and I really don't have to be there. She just feels like it. It's a whim of hers, right? Then I start to question, why would my significant other, knowing that I hate that, force me to do that just because she has the whim that she wants me to spend a day with her and get her shopping done.
Maybe she's like, I'm going to need you there to help me, like, carry shit because I can't carry everything. Like, maybe there's like a utility reason.
If there's a reason where I need to be there, again, then that would change the but my bother would be,
well, maybe her reason could be, I let you play Blood Bowl all day and I don't give you shit. Can you fucking give me something?
I'm a fucking grown man, dude. Like, let me play Blood Bowl. Like,
but you're in a relationship, so you're not, right? Like, the point is,
my relationship doesn't work like that.
But at any point she could just walk into the room and be like, turn it off. Now, you could say, fuck off if you wanted to.
No.
But, like, she clearly could say, you've been playing this for a long time.
We are not in the same situation. Like, she doesn't know. No.
Wait. No. I'm saying she could. I'm saying you could also do what you're doing right now, which is say, fuck off. But I'm saying, in any relationship, somebody can step in and say, you, like, stop doing this, or can you turn off the TV and let's have a conversation because you've been fucking playing for 5 hours and I just want to talk to you about my day. She could. Now, obviously, you may have, like, you guys are.
Then that's a reasonable request. I might be like, all right, let me finish the game that I'm on, and I'll go on and hang out.
Of course, but then her other argument could also be like, yo, all day yesterday you went and fucking played for 5 hours. You played Blood Bowl. I didn't say shit. I wanted to talk to you or whatever, but I didn't because I know you enjoy it and that's fine. So now I'm saying, hey, why don't you come out shopping with me so we can spend the time and talk because you got your time yesterday. That could also be. It's like it doesn't have to be.
And then I would be like, well, I would also like to spend time with you. However,
but you have to stay home.
Well, we could either stay home or we could go do something that we both enjoy. But the thought of walking through, this woman's stores with you for the next 5 hours and me sitting down fucking bored, for most of it is just repelling to me. So let's find something else that we can do together.
Of course, but she's like, but.
And then she'd probably be like, all right, that's cool. That sounds right. So see, that's a weird scenario for me because again, my wife wouldn't do shit like that. Like she would just be like, okay, that sounds right.
Yeah, I mean that's cool. Like I guess you guys have each other trained pretty well to know never ask me to do anything that I am not 100% in on.
It's just but we don't believe in forcing people to do shit they don't want to do.
Again,
for the sake of forcing.
You're creating it the idea of forcing it, I'm just saying most relationships involve people doing things
sounds like to
that
me
they do not,
when you don't
that they do not that would not be their choice to do, but they do it for the other person. That is just
I do things like that.
Literally, up until I talked to you
reason.
about this, I thought that was every relationship. I thought every single person I've ever spoken to, has said, yeah, of course I do shit. Oh, my wife wants to watch this fucking chick flick movie that clearly I wouldn't choose, but I'm gonna sit and watch it because she wants to watch it today.
No, man. Most of my friends, we ain't doing that shit. You're one of my few friends that no. In my case, you'd be like, "What? You're gonna watch what? No, go ahead, watch that on your own. I'll watch something else." That's why we have multiple TVs in the house.
So if she was just like, "Hey, I want to watch this rom-com," you'd be like, "That movie has no interest to me."
I have done that before. I've been like, "Why don't you watch that?" And I'll go back in another room and play video games or watch another movie in the other room on my own.
But so then I assume then also equally you would never ask her to watch a fucking action flick that she doesn't want to see.
Her genres of shit that she's not into are less defined than mine, but I would say for instance, I said, "Hey, I'm really looking forward to the Tyler Perry movie Us coming out. I can't wait to see that." And you really enjoyed Get Out. You want to watch that shit? She was like, "No, fuck that, Brujeria." And I was like, "All right." So I just called up my line brothers, and now we're all going to see it together.
Yep.
I'm not going to feel like it really would mean a lot to me if you would be sitting in the seat next to me when it comes out because I really want to be scared with you and holding your hand. Well, right. I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? We just have to, there are, if she's uncomfortable doing something, then I'm not going to ask her to do it.
Yeah, uncomfortable is a specific term. I'm just literally talking about.
Let's say that she's not going to have a good time. If I feel like she's not going to have a good time, right? Then I'm not going to ask her to do it unless unless it's really important to me for some reason that her presence is there, more than I just want you there. Right, I would just like you to be there doing some shit that I know you don't like to do and that would be boring to you. For me, as the person that's asking, I would never want to put her in a position where just for the fuck of it, I'm forcing her to sit through some shit where she doesn't want to be at. Right, and that's the paradigm I'm coming from. I wouldn't ask her to do that, so she shouldn't be asking me to do that. It's actually it's funny because she does it. A couple of her friends are fucking shitty about this shit. I remember early on, one of them said something to her about this, right? Because anybody that has ever dated me or anybody that knows me knows I'm a really fucking easygoing guy when it comes to demands I put on women I date. I am not jealous. I don't fucking ask them to report where they are. They're like, "Oh, do you mind if I go hang with the girls this day?" I'm like, "No, you can't go fucking hang with your girls." And there are dudes that are like that. They're fucking, okay. Everything bothers them. Like, "Oh, you declare this to me.
Yes.
You need to do it."
Definitely know assholes like that,
I'm very hands off. A woman is her own fucking person. Just even if we got married doesn't mean that you're my slave or you have to answer to me. Beyond if you fucking don't come home on a given night, I better know where the fuck you are. You know what I mean? But the general I want to take the car and go visit with my sister. I'm like, "No, you can't do that." Or you've been
But I think that's standard good guy or good partner behavior is to not be shitty and require that somebody checks in isn't something that like you should be like, look how amazing I am. It's like I'm just not a scumbag. That I don't require
I'm not controlling with her.
Right.
With like,
no,
I
so
tell
you're
her
not,
what to do. I ask her.
So
I'm like, do you want to go do this? No. Okay.
Right.
Cool.
Which is a lack
right?
of a bad behavior. It's not necessarily good behavior. It is an absence of negativity. Which I agree with you on that because I am the same way. I agree. Yeah.
Well, similarly though, then I don't expect that she should be able to turn around and tell me where to be and what to do.
Well, of course.
But again, I ask for the same things. I don't ask for anything else than what I'm telling her about.
Yes, I guess my whole thing was more specific to the idea of, like, separate from telling someone what to do or where to be or how to be or whatever, is more just the idea of compromise, which, like, you guys have found a way to have the absence of compromise because you don't ever require one another to do anything that they're not 100% invested in as well. So you guys are able to just spend the time apart whenever you're like, the thing you're asking me to do is not of interest to me, so you're going to just go do it by yourself and I'm going to go do my own thing separately, which is like not the norm for most relationships, because the reason why most relationships would be difficult are because it requires constant compromise. It requires you to give in on things that maybe don't bring you joy specifically, but you do them because it is something that the other person would want to do or brings them joy or whatever. And so
I disagree with that.
It's cool for you. It's cool for you. No, I'm saying it's good for you that you guys are able to have the relationship that is the absence of any degree of compromise and doesn't lead to like arguing and shit like that.
The characterization is shitty. The characterization is shitty. It's not. It's inaccurate. Like you're saying, oh, you guys have the absence of compromise. No, we compromise all the time, but just not unnecessarily. Like if you tell me you want me to.
It depends on the definition of unnecessarily. Like that's just semantics.
Unnecessary, like necessary. No, it's not semantics. Like you want me to stop playing and take care of these fucking chores because you're doing other shit, and the chores need to be taken care of. Hey, I'm with that. All right, that's compromise. Or you want me, like, something is very important to you that you have to be there. So now I got to handle this shit at the house by myself. I understand. That's fine. Like, for instance, I've been watching the baby all fucking day long just by myself.
But
and
again,
I'm waiting for you to come home and help me out.
That's not compromise, though. That is necessity. That's the same thing as saying, like, you're not home. You're not home, so therefore I have to watch the baby. You're not compromising. You're not compromising if you say you're not home, so I'm going to take care of the baby. That's just literally the baby might die if I don't.
You're not letting me finish though.
Okay.
But then you call at the end of the day and you say, like, hey, I'm gonna go to the gym. It's important to me. I'm really trying to, like, get back on my gym kick, and I'm gonna go to the gym. Can you take care of the baby for a couple hours? And, like, part of me is like going like, fuck, I really need a break. It's been just me and this baby all day long. I would really like for you to be home, but you know what? I really, really know that this is important to you. So fuck it. Yeah, I'll whatever. That's fine. And like those kind of compromises, they exist, and that's not necessity for her to go to the gym. I just placed her the importance of something and the happiness it brings her above, the added, like, stress that it's gonna, that I was looking forward to getting a little help.
Right. So then you do things specifically to make her happy that don't bring you joy.
Yes, but in that case,
your whole argument was that you do not.
Just going,
that was your whole argument from the very beginning. Is that you said I only do things. You said I would. You said no one should ever do something that does not make them happy. You should just say, if it doesn't make both people comfortable and happy, then you shouldn't be doing it. That was literally the premise of the entire argument.
No. What I said is you don't need to inject these calculations of what's objectively fair in terms of, like, who's getting what objectively and the best bargain out of everything, like tit for tat, and all of that shit is a lose-lose situation. Again, when it comes to sex, when it comes to money, when it comes to everything, it's bad. It should just come down to what is important to you, how do things make you feel, and what is important to them, and how do things make you feel, and that's it. And if something is bothering you, then yeah, you should bring it up, you should talk about it, but you shouldn't be like, you shouldn't just be like, well, I'm just going to object because I feel like I should, because I'm getting taken advantage of, and that's just that's a bad scenario.
No. Those are two different things. If somebody is objecting because they feel like they should, that's bad. If they are objecting because they feel like they're being taken advantage of, that is a good thing. They should step in and object because they feel like they're being taken advantage of.
And then I would question, why do you feel like you're getting taken advantage of? That's what I would say. If you have a
because the other person is not worried about your feelings.
But again, you gave it this weird this weird example to me where it's like, oh, well, she always gets to pick where we eat, so now I'm gonna make it a point to pick where we eat tonight just because it's important to me to show her that she needs to consider my feelings. And I'm like, what? Well, you just made a problem out of nothing. Like, you were literally in a situation where you told me you basically gave zero fucks about where you eat every day, and you don't give a fuck about where she picked tonight, but it just bothers you that she assumed that you were going to be okay with it. And I'm like, but why wouldn't she assume you were going to be okay with it?
So you don't think it's normal? You don't think it's normal that somebody feels like, I'm more just bummed out that you don't care about my feelings?
Oh, but it's not that person. It's not that person doesn't care about your feelings. It's just that person knows you well enough to know he doesn't really give a fuck about that. And if he did, he would say something to me. Because honestly, the reaction, if a person handled that situation like an adult, they would say, "Hey, I know you normally pick, but I want to pick tonight, right?" And then that would probably solve 99% of the problems. But that doesn't happen, because a lot of people, they just explode in this fucking like, you know what? I am sick of you always picking and the other person goes, what the fuck? Where is this coming from? I thought you didn't care. I don't care, but I care that you don't care. What does that even mean? Are you saying, here, you know what? You can pick what you want for tonight. No, it's not about that. What? Right. It's not about that. Then why are we arguing?
I guess.
It's just a weird fucking that people do that.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, because it's just a cyclical argument, because every time one of us says something, the other one will just replace that person's argument with their version of how they perceived it. Like, because obviously I didn't say any of that stuff, but like that was just how you perceived the entire argument, and like the same thing will happen on the reverse as well. Like
it's going nowhere.
We're making points. We're making points, and then the other person is just hearing what they want to hear and then repeating back their own version of it. So I think it's like it doesn't really matter anyway. So this whole argument's kind of pointless. And I think
2.5 hours in on a 10-minute
right. I think most of it anyway just came down to the idea of, would we be okay with pleasure robots? And I think we have come to the realization that no, we're not. I think that's the short answer of this.
Your relationship, no. For not for this relationship, I would not be okay with it. In the past, if she's cool with it and I'm cool with it, I'd be cool with it. But not a dude.
But only a female, right? Yes, it would have to be a female.
Not a dude.
Yes, I think we established that.
Hashtag not a dude.
Yes.
On the back of the T-shirt, live from the Manson.
And then underneath that has to be Serious Jess, just to clarify, to make sure that was your T-shirt alone.
Because
I'm definitely down with dudes. That's hashtag down with dudes.
I'm definitely down with dudes.
Down with dudes.
Craig Mack, live from the man cave.
Yeah, live from the man cave. No, it has to be live from the man cave first in bold, and then underneath in small letters, Craig Mack. So at first blush, when people read it, when people read it at first blush, I want them to not know that it was. I don't want them to remove you from that.
Definitely. In fact, now the front of the T-shirt says "Down with Dudes," and then underneath dash, and then Craig Mack.
No, that's not fair.
And then on the back, live from the man cave.
We have already established that this entire show has to be fair. It has to be equal fairness between us. So it has to be written in small letters on the back. You have to take responsibility for this show, and you are one of the co-hosts. So
absolutely.
You have to take
now I feel uncomfortable.
Equal and 100%.
I feel uncomfortable.
But we've established that you have to do
happen.
things. You have to do things that you feel uncomfortable. We agreed on that. We came out and agreed. No, but your presence is needed because the T-shirt. The T-shirt is needed. Yeah, we have come out with this. We've come out and declared. We've declared to everyone. Well, no, for me to be down with dudes,
and I'm gonna stay home and play video games.
For me to be down with dudes, your presence is required because I need the other dude there for me to be down with dudes.
No, you're the dude.
You're the dude.
I'm not the other dude.
You are the other dude. You're the other dude in this. Other T-shirt, by the way. Serious Jest is the other dude on the back.
No, that's not. I'm down with that.
Right, I'm down with that. Okay, if we agree on that, then I think we're good to wrap this show up. Perfect. All right, so I'm ordering that one right now as we go. Click send and submit. Perfect. Okay, that one's ordered. You can find that on livemancave.com, our brand new Down with Dudes, and that dude is Serious Jess on the back. Live with Man Cave.
Down with Dudes.
And other than that, thank you very much. It's been an awesome show. I feel like we've covered quite a bit. And what we did not cover a lot of
I feel like I've had
is
one of your
game.
marital arguments, and I'm not even in the marriage.
This was me being the good guy. This was not an argument. This was me being the good guy. I actually feel more like the female in this argument being steamrolled by you being like, no, that's not fun. Fuck you. I'm not going shopping with you. I'm like, oh man, I guess that's what it's like when you just go tell her to fuck herself. I like it. Perfect.
No, it's not telling her to fuck herself.
Sounds good. Anyway, we're not rehashing this conversation again. We cannot relitigate the entire thing again. It is exhausting, and I forgot that we were still recording at some point. I thought this was just a conversation on the phone. This one maybe never needs to be posted up to YouTube, so we'll just let it die after a week on YouTube.
If this is a conversation on the phone, it wouldn't have lasted as long as it did. I'm like, what? Okay, hey, I gotta go, Craig.
Oh, really? Okay. Sounds good. All right. On that note, I think we have established everything we can in this. If anyone out there is looking to date a guy, clearly I'm the one that cares about your feelings, and so we just know
you could step all over.
Yeah. If you want a guy who will pull your hair and punch you in the face when you ask him to go shopping, we also know who you can go go. But if you want
pulling hair could be fun. But the whole punch in the face, it's a little much. It's a little much.
Well, we've already established you've also done that to old ladies when you were like 9, so I'm assuming it's only been ramped up. I'm assuming
it was just because I was trick-or-treating and they didn't give me a treat quick enough, so they got a trick.
You know what? She really knew what she was getting into. I got it. You know
exactly.
what? I give you the pass on that one.
She knew what she was getting into, and on the back of Live from the Man Cave.
Perfect. All right, we're selling a shitload of T-shirts from this one. Everyone, go check out "Tainted Love," the article that will start an entire conversation about how interaction between relationships goes.
About how you'd be cool with an android dude fucking your partner.
Oh no! I said I wouldn't be down with it from the very beginning. I just said I would be not cool with either side. The only way it went down that path was that you were like, "I'd definitely love to fuck that chick." I kept trying to salvage them. You were like, as long as I can slip a dick in, I'm good. But she is not allowed to take one. And I was like, oh, all right, let's have that conversation.
Gross.
Awesome. Yep.
Gross.
Slip a dick in on the back of the shirt, live from the Man Cave. Anyway, we have established that it is far too late. It's funny because at a certain point I was like, man, we could definitely do another episode because we knocked through this one so fast. And then 2 hours and 40 minutes later, whoopsie.
Yikes.
All right, dude. This has been a good time. What is our next episode going to be? Who is it going to be? Marcus, I assume?
Marcus. I'm like 99% sure it's Marcus. Hold on, let me flip to that. It's Marcus, and the name of it is called Spare Parts.
Perfect. Oh, that's
and
right.
And by the way, I will say, I'm going to say this. This episode was dry to me.
We didn't actually talk about the episode at all.
The conversation it inspired is kind of one of the drier ones to me. So I normally I'll be like, I'm looking forward to the next one, or I won't say anything at all. But I will say, like, I'm looking forward to the next one because it's a good one.
Yeah.
And then I look down the list at the other ones behind it, and I'm like, the 1, 2, 3, at least the next 3 are those that I'm actively remembering. It's like, oh shit, that was a really good episode. So like the next 3 missions are all fucking good.
Right. Well, so this one also, I guess if we really just dumb it down, this fell more into one of those episodes where our conversation was about all the extraneous shit about the game or about whatever. It wasn't really, we didn't really talk much at all about the episode per se because we've had a couple of those, right? We've had ones where it's like the things you did were just a function of get from point A to point B. They were like, it may have been fun or interesting or whatever, but like it didn't inspire you to like think or talk or like say, so Craig Mack, why did you make this decision when you busted in the window to get into the house or whatever? Like we've had episodes like that, right, where we talked for an hour and a half about the choices that I made or the bigger picture of what those decisions meant or whatever. Whereas this one clearly we talked much more on the front end, back end, just about like the idea of communication and androids and shit like that. So it's like I think the conversations are interesting. They were just more us taking rabbit holes within the game and talking about things that were separate from the actual, gameplay of what we just played.
Right.
So what you're saying is the next episode is going to be much more of like
like the actual video game, the actual video game chapters episodes are going to be pretty like cool and exciting.
Right.
At least the next 3.
Okay.
The fourth, the one after that, I don't.
Then it starts shitting the bed again.
No. I don't.
Like the next 3 are great. After that, fuck this game. But the next 3 are going to be amazing. All right.
But yeah, we're definitely full into that, this was kind of like a break, a rather mundane episode. But like I told you, like once this game starts hitting its stride, the plot moves like fire, and it's
nice.
Next one's gonna be really enjoyable.
Cool, and I think we covered a lot. I think like people, if you have listened this far into this episode, you probably have a much stronger relationship because of it. You really feel closer to your significant other or your hand if you've decided to stick with masturbation, whatever it is. We have really, I feel like, you and I have gotten closer in this episode. I feel like we know more about each other. We're way more comfortable. We're like, we're really partners in this. We're partners in life.
Yeah, you're cool with walking around malls with a purse on your shoulder.
Absolutely.
Saying, honey, do you want me to sit here on this couch while you try out those shoes for the next
No, that's
hour?
where I draw the line. Fuck that. I sit where I want. You don't tell me where to fucking sit. Fuck that woman.
And that's when you blow up in the middle of the mall. You're like, fuck that. You don't tell me what fucking couch to sit on. Who the fuck you think you are? Take this purse back.
If I want to stand and hold your purse, I'm going to fucking stand. All right, Craig.
If you need me, I'll be at Orange Julius. And you fucking take off.
I'm going to Victoria's Secrets. I'll be back. But the pink section, not the regular Victoria's Secrets where it's hot. Like, that's how I react. I get real fired up about that shit. I don't have time for this. All right. Anyway, on that note, it's been a good time, right. Mr. Serious Jess. Thank you very much. Sir. And we are probably going to get another one tomorrow, so not that long. People don't have to wait to get another episode. Yeah, so we'll knock another one out probably in about 8 hours now. By the time it is now,
my wife's going to see her sister tomorrow, so I can I'm allowed to play video games as much as I want.
Oh, nice. That's awesome, dude. You're so lucky. You better take advantage of this because you're not going to be able to do that for long.
Exactly.
Tremendous.
That's where she comes in here and says, turn that off now.
Turn that off because I don't appreciate. Talk to me about my day. By the way, are you also going to pull your shady roll in where you're going to say, oh, I fell asleep on the couch again? Is that going to be your move
I
now?
almost always fall asleep during the couch on the weekends.
So there you go.
But definitely, if you get at me with enough time, then I have enough time to wake up and see it and be like, cool, let's do it.
All right, let's hit it up. I will talk to you. We'll make it happen again tomorrow. We are one day closer to the end of this month, which means I am returning with a vengeance to my alcoholism, so that's going to be awesome. So let's just keep all options on the table.
Plastered.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. And imagine if I got into a whole conversation about sex with an android when I was sober. Oh, no. Imagine how amazing it's going to be next week.
I'd have just been like, you win at that point.
Hey, at least both of us.
At
least both of us RoboCopped our way through this one, so I feel pretty solid about when we evenly split the difference on RoboCopping. All right, dude. Let's call it quits. Right. It's been a good show, and go check out Live from the Man Cave, everybody, and join the Discord channel, all that kind of stuff, and we will come back with our next episode and Ready Player 2. All right, dude. Peace.
See you.